plus like a 10-inch tang. In order to surface grind the blade, I have to do small sections and overlap previous sections with the next section that I'm doing, and slowly but surely get the whole blade surface ground as flat as I can.
I just started the stream.
Pull it out and take a look.
Okay.
Have our first reveal of the finished.
Anybody popping in? We're watching this guy making a legendary longsword that he sold for $65,000.
Wait,
Whoa.
that design?
That's
fire.
fucking crazy.
Amazing.
What? Hold on, could you hit that full screen real quick?
As well.
Yeah.
That's nuts. I've literally never seen Damascus look like that. What the fuck?
That's so cool.
Guys, I'm super on edge right now because this is the final stage to where.
Why is he why is he moving his
Why
head
is
so
he-
much?
I don't know. Yeah, it's really funny.
He's moving his head like a lot. Dude, he has a little minion fucking thing.
Long tube so we can fit the entire sword in there and get it hardened up. This is where it all comes down to the wire.
I love
though,
this guy.
and, we could end up cracking the blade or not hardening it properly, or something right now could make it so we have to restart on this blade.
Oh, it's a
Our blade's been
oil
soaking
quench.
at 1550 degrees for a few minutes now. We're finally ready. It's the moment of truth. I'm gonna pull it out, get it into the Parks oil as quickly as possible, and I'm gonna violently try to move it up and down to help break that vapor barrier and get it to quench nice and quickly.
Okay.
He's fucking scared. Fucking knees bent.
He's locked in. He's locked in.
Homeboy is locked in.
It's warped.
Oh
No.
no. Oh no.
The blade did warp during heat treatment. Later on, after tempering, we'll
That's
tackle
fucked
the
up.
warpage issue and try to get the blade straightened out using.
That's fucking...
I thought he said it's worked.
No. It's worked.
I've done it.
The brown color
It's
with a
worked.
little bit of purple mixed in was the color
Man.
for tempering the blade. Tempering the blade takes out a little bit of the hardness, but it makes it much, much tougher and less likely to chip and break.
And now is the time to start straightening the blade.
To do this, I heat up only the center of the blade, and then I apply pressure in whichever direction I want to undo the warp in. I hold it in place and cool it off with a little bit of water. This, over time, will fix the warping issues. Sometimes I can straighten a section after one cycle, but sometimes it fights you and you have to do it over and over and over again before you finally get it.
Homie's been doing this for a while.
He's got long ass arms.
Bro's
Alright,
got
so that-
gorilla arms.
Here is looking really good.
Look at his
I was
fucking
actually able
arms,
to get her
man.
nice and
Yeah,
straight
oh my
without too
God.
much effort. Now, actually, the next thing we need to do is get the blade profiled.
He does have
I
some
roughed
fucking
in the
monkey
profile
arms.
of the blade before heat
Fucking
treatment,
long
but
is
now
that?
that the blade's hardened and tempered, it's time to finalize the profile.
Don't fucking get in a sword fight with this guy. Homie got double the reach.
True. Oh shit. I want to be this guy in Dark Souls.
Here it is. We've got Excelsior profiled. It's really starting to look like my sketch now, and it's kind of exciting. I got the layout for the fuller onto the blade on both sides. We can go ahead and take it over to the grinder, and I'm going to use a 1-inch wheel and start grinding in this fuller.
Grinding in this fuller by hand is one of the most difficult grinding operations I've ever done on any project. The sword is pretty heavy at this stage, and I have to hold the whole thing horizontally. It's not bad when you're grinding out in the middle, but when you're grinding towards one of the ends, your arm is holding the whole weight of the sword way out there, and it became very tiring. One tiny mistake could end up leaving a big ding or gash in the fuller, and it would ruin the look of the blade. I hand sand the fuller using the same round wheel that I used to grind in the fuller. The only difference here, I'm running it side to side manually, and it has sandpaper wrapped around it.
Shit.
I got the fuller ground in. I spent 2 days grinding on it.
I wanna
also
forge a
spent
sword.
probably
Oh, look at
one
that
day
thing,
hand
man.
sanding the fuller. Got my lines on the edge of the blade, about 40 thousandths of an inch apart. We're ready to get
You
all
can,
cleaned up. I'm gonna
in
wear
that little
respirator
shed in the
glasses,
back.
Earplugs,
That's
we
what
have
I'm
a ventilation
saying.
fan. I'm also going to be wearing a hat because I'm going to be doing some really heavy grinding, and I want to keep those hot sparks off the top of my head.
Make it a
Start
fucking
going
forge.
crazy on this
I have.
I've been thinking about that. It would be so funny to have a forge in there.
That would be so fucking sick.
Yeah, that would go hard.
Got a little thing that catches the metals.
I spent 2 full days grinding on this blade. It has been tremendously difficult. It's kind of like grinding a dagger, only really, really long, because this blade is 37 inches. We got a little pattern made of the guard, and I'm just gonna outline around the pattern onto my anvil, just so we can forge that piece of metal that's gonna be the guard. We need to forge the lugs down a little bit. There we go. I can now use the torch and heat up the ends of that guard and forge them down this way.
To whack a rectangle of hot metal.
Have you ever like done anything? Have you ever forged like anything?
After forging
Like
out
done
the
any
general
kind
of-
of guard, I let
Oh.
it cool down in my
It's
heat
so-
How do you-
oven.
it-
Then we can
How do
move
you
on
just
to
like
grinding
end
the
up in a
shape of
situation
the
where you get to forge
So
them?
you got it at Kenny's. You could do shit like this. I'm revealing this on stream. Me slacking off at work. Like sometimes I'll get a piece of metal that I'll just like make into something. Usually it's just like little dab tools or like something small. But I could like if I wanted to just like one day just like make a sword. He doesn't have like a big like oven like this guy has, but he has a bunch of map gas torches, which map gas is hotter than propane. And he has an anvil, he has grinders and shit. Hold on, I'll be right back.
Sam, like the blacksmith.
Like the blacksmith.
Oh, home early. What's up, bro?
Something really satisfying about removing this metal from the guard. Seeing the guard slowly take shape. All that extra metal around the edges slowly disappearing and turning into fiery sparks.
He's got like a bunch of tools and shit. But like yeah, it's pretty easy to just I say it's easy. Easy for me because I just work with
Got the entire guard
machine
profiled
shit.
as far as I'm going to take it for now. It's ready to move on to fitting onto
Give me the
sword.
address and I'm coming over to forge a blade.
Did I ever bring you that grinder? That like bench grinder?
No, did you have plans to bring me a bench grinder?
Yeah, when I moved, I was like, I have this bench grinder, and like I don't know. I want to bring it to Richie's because I don't know where I could put it, but I think I ended up like letting my dad hold it, but I could bring it to your house.
I would take it and I
Finally,
would
that time, we
grind
need to
a
make
blade.
big long groove through this 5.5 inch long piece of premium interior mammoth ivory. This thing is gorgeous. There's no checks or cracks or anything. And I
Oh,
really
wow.
want to make sure I don't mess it up because this
And we
thing
got a
is
big
something
block
like
of ivory.
He has a
$300,
block of
and I don't have
ivory.
another one.
That's expensive, probably.
I thought ivory was like a.
We've got our front
Oh,
spacer
fuck yeah.
fitting and roughly profiled in.
What do you call
We've
that?
got
It's a
our
tusk.
handle material.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a fucking elephant
It,
tusk.
yeah, this is a mammoth. He said this is mammoth
Next thing
ivory.
is to move on to the pommel. Not to the pommel. It's to the pommel.
Which makes it more expensive, I would assume.
I grind a long section of the tang into a 1/4-inch round rod. This section of the tang will go into the pommel and it'll have threads on the end so the pommel nut can thread onto the tang.
Oh shit. Making them threads. Yeah.
Now that the tang is ready for the handle, we can begin working on the pommel. I take a large round bar of mild steel and begin cutting away everything that doesn't look like the pommel. Once I get the shape roughed in with a carbide cutter, I clean everything up with a die grinder and files. Next, we can begin working on the front spacer. I've already fit the front spacer to the tang, but it's still a big chunky piece of metal that needs quite a bit of material ground off of it. The shape of the front spacer is going to be a lot of work to create. It's not just going to be a flat, oval front spacer. Because of all those curves, it's going to be a lot of work to shape it that way, and it'll be a lot of work to hand sand it and clean it up later too.
Bro works without YouTube? That's crazy.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
The front spacer and pommel are shaped. Let's move on to our fossilized mammoth ivory handle. I give myself a few guidelines to follow, and from there I manually shape everything else in, using those guidelines to make sure I keep things symmetrical. With the handle shape, it's time to finalize the shape of the guard. We've already got the profile of the guard finished out, but we have another dimension of shaping we need to do, and there's quite a bit of extra material to start hogging off.
This man built like he lives in Indiana.
Why he built like an Indiana man?
Also, why is Indiana Jones called Indiana Jones?
That's a great question.
Because
What the fuck Indiana got to do with it?
I think that's just his first name, man. I think
Homie's name Indiana?
Yeah,
so.
canonically, yeah. I've never seen Indiana.
I guess
Jones,
that. I mean, I guess that's right. First name and
Indiana Jones. Like, you think Indiana Jones had a fake name this whole
Let me tell you,
time?
this thing is
Yeah, that's
I mean,
right.
like,
loving the way
I hope his
sword
name's
is
Indiana
the
Jones.
last thing that they had to
His
really
name's probably like
figure out.
Paul.
Now it's really starting to look like a
Oh wait,
complete
no, you're right.
Wait,
his
his
name's Dr. Henry
Now
Walton.
that all the handle
Dr. Henry
components are
Walton.
shaped, it's time
Dr.
to start
Henry
adding
Walton Jones.
embellishments. We will
Jr.
embellish the
What the
mammoth
fuck
ivory
Indiana
handle
got
by
and
adding
Indiana got
Indiana has to do with anything.
I've never done this type of straight fluting before.
Also,
And I didn't
why when I
realize how
hear
much
Indiana
work it was
Jones, do
gonna
I
be.
think of Indiana
I start
as a
by
different
giving myself
country,
a layout
and not
for
as a
all the
Midwestern
flutes.
state in the
With
U.S.?
the layout complete, I begin cutting in each flute, one at a time.
I can't.
with a
I
small
don't
file.
know the answer to that one.
Once the center of all the flutes have been cut in, I can
Because it
begin
always looks like
rounding
he's in
all the
like
flutes
some
over
third world
to make them
country,
have
like
this
running
really
from a
nice
fucking
rounded look.
rolling boulder in the
True.
jungle. And that is Indiana.
That's what Indiana's like.
That's
Indiana.
that's what Indiana.
Indiana.
Everybody
Average day in
slanders
Indiana.
Ohio. Everybody slanders Ohio, but nobody says shit about Indiana for some reason.
True.
Well, because you gotta respect Indiana, you know,
Why?
because there's so many boulders that roll after you. You have to like.
Yeah, I
That's
guess
true.
so.
That's true. That's a good point.
Shaping the flutes was
Indianapolis.
only half the story. Getting them finished out and
In that-
removing
in
all
that
the file
place.
marks was the other half. It took a
Yeah,
long
yeah.
time to hand sand each one of these flutes and get them ready for polishing.
I ain't never had a good time in Indiana. I,
Flashback to Richie running away from a giant ball.
Oh, also, I beat. I'm sorry, chat. I beat this gem without streaming it. I'm sorry. It's fucking.
this YouTube video the other day where this guy that lived in Ohio ate nothing but Skyline chili for 7 days. I'm trying to go get some Skyline chili.
What is Skyline Chili?
It's a fast food restaurant that serves chili-based items, including spaghetti with chili on it.
Whoa.
And a
Chili.
chili. Skyline chili.
Skyline.
Wait, say that
Chili.
again. What is it?
It's like a fast food chain that's like, and I think like Indiana, Ohio, and like other
It's
Midwestern
just
states.
Ohio.
Oh, really? Just Ohio?
Yeah.
But it's a chili fast food restaurant that just serves like chili shit,
Oh.
and they have like a spaghetti with chili. It's just noodles with chili and cheddar
I don't know about
cheese.
you
That's
guys,
that's
but
why
I
it's
need a break from all
iconic
this
because of that
fireworks,
ridiculous
singing and
dish.
fluting. I think it's time to go slice a couple pumpkins and maybe have a stab at a soda bottle.
I've been talking about fucking Indiana for so long, I didn't even realize he finished his sword.
Oh yeah. I'm so glad he built a $65,000 sword and he's cutting shit with it. I would have been so mad
I'm glad.
if he built
I'm
this
so
sword.
glad he for it too.
He what?
I'm so glad he dressed up for it
Yeah.
Yeah,
in his fucking leather tunic.
I would have been so mad if he just did all this and just
That pumpkin
didn't stab
cutting was
shit.
Pretty terrifying.
hope he has
On one of
fun.
those cuts, I think I had the blade tipped on a little bit of an angle.
Damn.
Caught onto the pumpkin and kind of drew the sword blade up as I was kind of going down. And if you look back at the video and slow it down super slow, frame by frame, you can see that
Whoa.
blade like flexing like this. Like
That's crazy.
serpentine. It was going up and down at the same time, but it did its job. It stayed there. The blade is basically tempered like a spring, so it's technically made to move quite a bit, and it's pretty thin.
Homie
We're ready to
bragging
move on
about his
to
blade
doing the
skills.
gold inlay on the fittings. To start
Homie
out,
crafted a formidable
we
blade.
need to get a good layout for the very
24K
center of
gold
the front
inlay.
spacer, and then the center going this direction as well, so I can get my name centered up on there really well. Got a bad feeling about this. Oh, please be good. Please be good. It's gonna look like just a big blotch of mud on the wall. Oh, it worked. Oh, it actually worked. It looks pretty good. Oh, I'm so glad that worked. Oh, man.
I could have manually laid out each letter of my maker's mark on the front spacer and then engraved them one at a time. I thought it'd be a little easier though if I used a stencil and electrochemically etched my maker's mark into the front spacer and then used that marking
Electrochemically?
as a guideline so I could
Electrochemically.
easily come back
Crazy
in with my
word.
gravers and make everything deeper for the gold inlay. I used a flat graver on all the straight sections to make the grooves deeper for our gold inlay, And then I use a high-speed dental burr that turns at 320,000 RPMs
dental
to deepen any sections that have a lot of curve to them. I use the dental burr on the curved sections because the flat graver
What if
won't
they,
be able to
like,
turn very
made
tight
it legal
on
to,
any of
like,
these curved
Bro,
have
they
a
put
du-
one of those
have
in
a
my
dual.
eye.
really dirty, nasty looking.
They put
To
one of those in
duel.
my eye.
That
Like, you
Mad
can
as-
shit.
that would be based. I feel like there would be
Wait, what
less
were you saying there?
conflicts.
What
When
did
I
they
had
put
a-
in your eye?
When I had a piece of metal in my
Once the
eye,
grooves
they
are nice
used
and
one of
deep,
those
I
little, like,
dovetail all the
fucking
grooves.
tiny ass
That's where the
drills.
hole will go to
Because they were
Smash
like,
the
there's still
gold
like,
into the
you got like
dovetails,
75%
it'll
of
fill
it,
out and
still like
mechanically hold it
25%
permanently.
there.
Next
So we're
is
gonna
my favorite
dye it.
part of doing inlay,
Fucking-
and that's the inlay part itself.
Bro, you can taste the
It's so
dye when they put it in your
satisfying.
eye. It's
It's
just nuts.
24
You
karat
can
Like,
gold.
taste it in your
yourself.
eyeball?
It like goes through your sinuses and shit. So eventually, like,
Oh.
if you like have a good, you know, you can fucking. It's weird.
Wow, you fucking.
But yeah, no, they put a little tiny drill in my eye. It was nuts.
Oh my god, that's so fucking scary.
Yeah, it was. Like it honestly, like I remember it being like even tinier. Like I feel.
Wow.
I love doing gold inlay where it wraps around a piece and you have a seam where the two ends meet each other. You smash the gold together right at the seam, and when you're all done and everything's cleaned up and sanded, the seam is completely invisible and it looks like one solid piece of gold going all the way around the spacer.
I'm sorry, I'm not even playing the game. I'm just fucking watching this fucking cool guy do his sword. What the fuck is this? Bill, I can't believe you came out here. Wow, look at that. Holy shit.
Now it's time to focus some more attention to the blade. Our blade has been ground and hand sanded, but it has not been etched yet to reveal the Damascus pattern. First, I clean the
Shit,
blade
he's
off
bringing back
really
the
well,
Damascus
and then I etch
pattern?
it in a water and
You
ferric
gotta.
chloride solution for 5 to 10 minute cycles. After each one of those cycles, I take the blade out, sand all the oxides off with 3000 grit sandpaper, and then put it back in the ferric chloride solution for another cycle.
Two or three more cycles like that, and this blade should be fully etched and ready to move on to polishing
A
and
ripsky
coffee
diddly?
darkening after that.
For my
The
gamers.
ferric chloride solution eats away one type of steel in our Damascus pattern, the 1084. The 15 and 20 is the other type of steel, and it has a little bit of nickel in it. The nickel resists the ferric chloride etch and keeps it shiny and bright. Whereas the 1084 turns dark and etches deeper and deeper the longer I keep it in the ferric chloride.
Holy fuck. That is, I'm not exaggerating. That's the craziest Damascus I've ever seen.
I was wondering at the beginning of the video why like a lot of swordsmiths like start off welding a bunch of pieces of metal together. And like now I understand that it's probably to get cool patterns. Like that.
Yes.
Which is sick. That's a crazy ass sword.
Yeah, that shit's,
What the fuck?
that shit
Oh
goes
my
fucking hard.
god.
The Damascus is also like
Oh,
under the
that's
wedge.
so
Even if all
beautiful.
these
That
etched
is
folded
blade
over
gorgeous.
clean finish
Like
the
Yeah.
blade just
done.
right. Here is our
That's
finished
so sick.
etched sword blade. I think it looks absolutely phenomenal. I could not be more pleased with how this mosaic pattern came out. And since it's a sword blade, there's a whole lot of it to enjoy.
Oh my god, man. Wow.
My layout is done, so we can start filing in the scallops.
Crazy.
I've already started roughed in 2 of them so far. We've got 16 to do in total. I like to start at the very corner and just make a nice little nick right on my line, and that gives me a good starting place to go so my file doesn't slide all over the place, and then I can slowly start adding more and more pressure.
Wow. A master craftsman.
If you're interested in how I went from a homeschooled kid making my first knife at 14 years old to making the knives and swords I'm making today, then subscribe to my email list where we talk about just that. Link is in the description.
Those hands have to be sandpaper. He's literally touching the fucking sander.
Yeah.
That's fucking sick, bro.
That's fucking crazy he did that by hand.
Homie was locked in.
That is actually crazy how symmetrical he got that. Like, that's perfect.
After finishing up the scallops on the end of the pommel, it's time to do the 24 karat gold inlay on the pommel.
Homie's 24K inlaying the pommel too? Oh my fucking god.
I am finally done with all of Excelsier's gold inlay. This pommel was the last piece to do, and all the gold is in. We just need to start sanding on all the fittings now. I am done hand sanding the fittings. All that needs to be done on them is for them to be buffed and blued. And a lot can go wrong here, and if it does go wrong, you gotta sand all the bluing off and re-sand your fittings. It can be a problem, so I'm hoping it goes really well.
As you may know, my mom, dad, and brother work with me. My knives are providing for 3 households. When we took this custom sword order, we took a lot of risks knowing it would be such a long project. The financial pressure to finish was at its peak here in these last days. Making this sword could break us. So many things could go wrong with the build of this caliber, and starting over is an option we cannot afford.
Ugh. Oh my gosh, dude.
What is that? Homie dipping it in scarlet rock.
Some sort of chemical treatment.
Daddy, what are you cooking for dinner?
Baby.
Sword hilt.
Sword hilt.
Sword hilt. Mom made sword hilt again.
Mom made sword hilt.
All the bluing is done, and I've sharpened.
Oh my
blade.
God.
One more thing we've got to do, and that's to assemble all the pieces. in
Holy
Excelsior.
fucking shit.
I've got all the parts cleaned up.
That blue,
Everything's
dude.
Good to go.
This is such a surreal moment for me. I
Man
can't
is
believe
an
Excelsior
absolute
is
Sigma
almost finished.
Chad.
I
You know
spent
how
4.5
hard it
months
is
working on this
for that
sword
bluing
10
to like
12
be
hours
that
a day,
dark?
and it's almost
He
done.
probably did it like a bunch. That's like ebony.
That's like something out of fucking Zelda, bro.
That is so fucking cool.
I know the person probably requested the ivory,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like the sword
Excelsior
would look
is
cooler
finally
without the
done. I got all
ivory.
the tape off, I
Yeah.
cleaned it up. I have
Yeah.
spent
Yeah.
4.5 hours working on this sword. The longest sword project I've ever done. The previous sword was about 3 months. This one took a little longer because it was fancier. And oh boy, it's just about the right weight to where you can hold it with one hand and wield it. It'd be a little unwieldy with one hand, or you can get both hands on there because there's enough handle to fit both of your hands for sure. I got the blade nice.
Oh, he
and
made a
thin. We've got
sheath
nice
for it.
Taper all the way down the blade.
You
I'm
got
so happy with how the Damascus came out. It's just so cool looking. The balance point is about 6 inches in front of the guard, which is exactly where I was wanting it.
4.5 months. It took longer than I expected, but
Wow,
was
dude.
it worth it? It was such a great learning experience, and I couldn't be more pleased with
Oh
how this
my
turned out.
God.
I absolutely love it. I will see you in the next video.
I am in
May the
love with
forge
that
be
sword.
you. Bye bye. If you enjoyed this
Holy
video, check
shit.
out this one where I show you how I make my first
Goofy
ever sword.
outro.
Goofy outro.
I'm so sure that guy's good. That was crazy.
Yeah, watch more of his shit. I like watching shit while I'm playing video games and can't. Oh man, I didn't heal anybody. I didn't heal anybody after I beat that gym. Shit. Oh fuck me. Okay, since I didn't say anything while that happened, basically Bill picked me up and took me to, he was like, hey, I got invited to this fucking island called Island 1. It's a fucking weird place. You want to come with me? And I'm like, sure, Bill. Sure, Bill, I'll come with you.
One of the most epic swords of my life, and
Well,
I
now we're
want you
there.
to be a part of the journey.
Just caught the yard on fire next to the
This
propane
video's an
tank.
hour.
That billet cracked wide open. I absolutely did not want to use flux. We're gonna have to stop forging. It's actually really
Okay.
bad. It's way worse than I thought it was gonna be. Josh, help put it out.
Oh my god.
It got ruined because it split open.
Bro started a forest fire?
It's noon on Thursday, and my goal for today is to get all this steel cleaned up, get everything MIG and TIG welded together, get some handles on these billets, and just maybe get one of these billets in the forge and do the first forge welding and drawing out session. This, whoa, this is the W layer billet. This is the biggest starting billet I've ever made in my life. And by the way, this will be the biggest billet ever once we combine
His fucking mug says you are an amazing man.
straight layer. This is gonna be super cool, complex composite mosaic, having W's and straight
crazy.
layers. I like to clean this pickled finish off and get rid of all the pits in the steel, just so that when we forge weld all these pieces together, we'll get the cleanest forge welds possible. So I'm gonna start with this billet here, head over to the grinder, and let's get these cleaned up.
I'm so excited to finally be creating the Damascus for this Griffin sword. I cannot wait to see how this comes out. Even though this is technically day one of working on the sword, I've actually spent about a month of my time behind the scenes working on the sketch, communicating with the customer, creating the design for the engraving, designing the Damascus pattern, all that stuff. I would say I've spent at least a solid month on already. I don't really count all that as time spent on the project, even though I probably should. We're gonna say that I'm starting on it now. Oh, pizza. Yummy. Bacon.
Me when I see pizza.
BLT pizza.
What in the
It's a
fuck
ham bread,
is that?
Pizza.
That is not pizza.
That's a skyline pizza right there.
That is not no goddamn pizza.
You see the way that dude looked at it?
I wanted to stop for a second and show you what we're actually making right now.
That's how he got his arm so long.
Third
The
ever
dude just looked down
sword.
at it and
This
looked
is
up at the camera
Griffin
guy.
I
sword.
didn't see
This
that.
thing is gonna be incredible. The pinnacle of anything I've ever made in my entire life. It's gonna be bigger than my previous two.
Should have had lettuce and tomato on it.
To keep up with that theme, this one is gonna have a 37-inch blade. Beyond that, the handle is also gonna be a lot bigger than the other two. My previous two swords had a hand and a half handle. We could kind of get two hands on there, but it was tight. This one is gonna be a full-on two-handed sword. We have lots of room for both of your hands. Your second hand won't be kind of halfway on the sword, and you'll actually have some extra room in between with a nice big pommel. Speaking of the pommel, this pommel is a lot different shape than my previous two swords. We're gonna have a nice big round pommel, and in the center of the pommel, we're gonna inlay 24 karat gold griffin right there in that nice little center. It's gonna look really cool and tie into this overall griffin sword. This thing is gonna have a massive wide guard. I mean, look at this thing. It's like 10 inches wide or something. The handle is
Jesus
gonna be a beautiful,
Christ.
dark piece of African blackwood that I've been aging for about 7 years now. I've got it nice and dry, ready to go for this project.
Bro, she's
The middle of
got
the handle has a metal
7-year-old
spacer,
aged
and
African blackwood in his backyard.
Yeah,
barrel.
cuz.
wood. Those are going to have carvings on them to kind of look like spacers in their own right. The handle itself is going to be shaped with some different facets and everything. The blade, of course, is going to be mosaic Damascus, which we're making right now. It's going to be a really complex pattern. This pattern is similar to the previous two swords I made. It's actually a variation on those patterns. In the end, I think it's going to look a lot different than the other patterns, but it's kind of cool that it.
I like that
ties back to
swirly
the
handle.
swords I made. This is a
Yeah.
massive
is cool.
piece. I can already see in my mind how this is going to come out, and I cannot wait to get to the end of this project and actually turn this paper sketch into reality and be standing here behind my desk holding the massive griffin sword. I've got the surface of all the pieces clean. I went ahead and did the W billet as well, ground it, wiped everything down. Time to start stacking all this up. So I've got some massive 3/8 inch pieces of 1084 here. I'm going to be using 2 of those to every 1 layer of 1/8 inch 15 and 20. So it's going to be a very, very low number of layers, but the layers are going to be very thick. So we do 1 strip of 15 and 20, 2 strips of 1084, and then flip this over. Now here in the middle, this billet is going to be a little bit different. I am going to have 1 spot here in the middle where we're going to do 3 whole strips of 15 and 20. So that's 3/8 of an inch of 15 and 20. Put a 1084 there, 1084 there. Now we have 2 strips of 1084 separating each strip of 15 and 20, including the triple strip there in the middle. And that is the W billet right there, ready to go. Now for the straight layer billet, I'm using 6-inch long pieces instead of these massive 8-inch long pieces. I used 8-inch long ones on the W billet because I needed more steel. So we're gonna start out with 3 1/8-inch pieces of 15 and 20, and then we're gonna do 2 1/4-inch pieces of 1084, and then 16th-inch pieces of 15 and 20 for the rest of the billet. 1 1/4-inch 1084, and then it's a 1-to-1 for a while until we get to the very end of the stack here. Boop, 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 and then for the very end of the stack. Oh, I messed up. Messed that up there. Okay, flip that around. Now for the very end, I want a little extra black on there, so I'm going to throw an extra 3/8 inch thick piece. This side is going to form a bright star in the pattern, and this side will just add this little black edge to the outside of it. It's hard to explain, but hopefully I'll be able to show that to you later too. Just like with the W billet, I'm going to weld the ends of this with a MIG welder to hold it together, and then I'm going to TIG weld up the sides and seal everything up. When I seal up the sides, I'm not using any filler or anything. It's just going to seal it up using the material that's already here. So that means when I get this billet forge welded together, I won't need to grind anything out of the sides because I'm not putting any extra foreign filler material in. I'll just be able to forge weld it together and continue drawing this billet out. And the stuff on the ends won't be a problem because I'm going to be drawing this billet out and we'll be cutting the ends off. So that extra foreign material on there isn't going to be a problem either. As a reference for our 2 different billets here, what you're seeing in the middle of this drawing is the straight layer billet.
we're gonna have a bunch of straight layers in here. I didn't really draw those in, but we're gonna be forming a star. That star is that extra 15 and 20 on the one side of the billet. It'll turn into this cool little 4-pointed star here and here. The W layer billet needs to be about twice as big because it's gonna be on the outside, sandwiching in the straight layer billet that we're creating. We have to do a lot of other stuff. We have to multiply the layers and stuff, but that's the basic idea. The straight layer stuff is the middle third, and the W is the outside 2/3. Oh no, I don't think that big one will fit in here.
Grab and drag.
Make a bigger
Yeah,
force.
make a grab and
Grab and drag.
Everything's gotta be bigger.
I need to have a word with the guy who runs the bandsaw. It looks like these pieces are all different lengths. I'm getting them flush on one end and they're all sticking out random on the other end. I forgot I'm the guy that runs the bandsaw.
I'd like to take a moment to point out this awesome shirt I'm wearing. Take a look at this thing. This is the Griffin holding my sword that I'm creating right here. That's literally the sketch of the sword that this Griffin is holding. This is the Griffin sword, and the Griffin is holding a sword, and the sword will have a Griffin on it. So it's just multiple layers of Griffin. It looks great with welding jackets. Welding helmets go great with it too. But seriously, look at that artwork. It's amazing. Get yourself one of these shirts.
Flash
They're
it was
cool.
Griffin, sword, Griffin,
Hang on.
Griffin,
I'm
sword.
playing with my helmet.
Sword.
It's even dark enough. I
Griffin.
feel like I'm squinting. I don't think you should be squinting while you're welding. I think that's the job of the welding helmet, is to do all the squinting for you.
Welding helmets are very important to have while you're welding. My brother, when he was younger, once looked at a bunch of welding without any welding helmet on, and what that did was actually gave his eyes sunburn to where like an outside layer of his eyes were peeling off the next day. That is not a pleasant experience at all, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
I had that shit happen before.
That's rough.
He was talking about like
We're
arc
gonna do
flash,
all that,
right?
but
Yeah.
This side, it's prettier than the other side.
Dude, it feels like you have fucking like sand in your eyes.
Oh my god.
Fire. It's nuts.
That won't fit in there, will it? No. Will that fit? We will make it fit. Will that fit? We will make it fit.
What is he talking about?
Let me figure out how to clamp this. That will not go wide enough. Like this part is wide enough, but not accounting for that extra length. Huh. No clamps big enough for this thing. Oh, I got it. Wow, those links are kind of mismatched on that end. Need to tell the bandsaw guy to pay better attention to what he's cutting. Jeez. Oh, that was me. Oh yeah. Got that figured out. Man, that was... That's definitely the widest billet I've ever done, because the widest billets I've ever done in the past would always fit in this. But yeah, it's way wider than that. Wait, one more thing we need to do. This helmet does not look cool enough. We're working on the Griffin
Put
sword. This
sticker.
helmet needs a Griffin sticker. Oh yeah, that's much better. Now all my welding will be beautiful for the rest of this project because of this cool sticker tat this
No,
helmet's getting. The Griffin welding helmet.
We need more Griffins.
Double it? Ooh.
That is the most beautiful welding I've ever seen in my entire life. No one in the history of welding has ever welded a weld that beautiful. Thank you, Griffin sticker. You definitely made a difference. Mwah. Hey, we've got these stickers available if you want one. You can dress up your welding helmet too, and all your welds will become the most beautiful, but not as beautiful as mine, but almost. Everyone, just in case you know, this right here is the man that taught me everything I know when it comes to welding. I want to give you all props and praise, Dad. Thank you so much. I would never be able to make Damascus if I couldn't weld stuff together. That pile of leaves behind it isn't at all dangerous. Underneath the giant rack of dry belts.
Making drama and content.
Okay, I do not like that on there. Also,
I don't want to be too obvious.
something red happened over here. Ugh.
I like to cut up most of my billets with a chop saw these days because I don't have to let the billet cool down slowly and destroy expensive bandsaw blades using the chop saw.
Drew, Barry, more power. Now that I've got the ends welded up, it's time to get a handle on the situation.
This guy's so fucking funny. He's so corny.
It's time to get a handle on the situation.
Flips down mask.
Got to use a bigger tack.
I fucking love this guy so much.
A horrible mistake I've made here. Oh. Oh. That is heavy. Maybe I should have made 2 smaller billets. The reason I'm wire wheeling the edges of the billet is to clean up the rust and gunk on the edges so the TIG welder can weld better. The TIG welder does not like any kind of paint or rust and stuff like that. It doesn't work well when you have that, at least at low temperatures. So I gotta wire wheel all that stuff off. Here we go. Oh my goodness. I think I've made a mistake.
I accidentally used tungsten.
Oh shit. All of this is actually tungsten. I completely forgot.
Tungsten isn't heavy until you realize it's tungsten.
Maybe I should just put a wire wheel on the angle grinder. Woo! Shiny when you wire wheel it. That is heavy.
One alternative that I've done a lot in the past to using the TIG welder to seal up the entire billet is to actually wrap the billet in some thin sheet metal and then seal it up with the MIG welder.
Got the billet all welded up. This thing is so heavy, I'm kind of regretting my decision on not splitting it into 2 separate billets. Feel how heavy that is, Mom. Whew. Don't hurt yourself.
Oh my word!
Don't hurt your
Don't make your poor mother lift that.
Okay. I already did that bit earlier. Careful, it's hot.
It's pretty heavy.
It's hot.
That dad is such a Chad.
Who's this guy?
Why are they all doing the bit?
They're all doing the same joke.
That's very Bean-like.
Mr. Bean.
They're all fucking dry and goofy like him.
You gotta put this in the forge how many times?
Mr. Bean,
This is the most Midwestern shit I've ever seen.
At the end of the day, I got the billets welded up. They are ready to go in the forge. I believe I accomplished all my main goals for the day. Got all the pieces cleaned up, got them all stacked up, got them welded, cleaned, ready to go. I did not get any forging done today though, but my main goals are at least accomplished. Oh. It's Friday morning. My goal for the day is to get both billets forge welded up and get them drawn out, process them. One of them needs to be turned into W, the other one needs to be turned into kind of a mosaic, and then need to get them drawn out into a long piece, get everything ground off, all the scale and everything, get them cut back up, stacked back up, welded up, and hopefully get a second forge welding operation done on both billets. Cover break. You gotta turn the thing on right when I'm talking. Yeah, Dad. Even though I got these billets welded up yesterday, I slept on it, and I think I'm gonna add one extra weld that I don't normally add. I'm gonna put a weld right across the sides of the billet with the MIG welder, and that's just because we sealed up these billets with the TIG, but I didn't use any filler, so those welds aren't real strong, and I really don't want any of these popping open. Sometimes they can pop open in the forge, And especially because this billet is way longer than my normal billets. It's 8 inches long instead of 6. I don't want any of those layers popping open and for that forge atmosphere to get in there and create scale and ruin the whole billet. Just this large billet's like $100 worth of steel, and I've already put a fair amount of time into it, so I really don't want to risk it. I will end up grinding this weld off the sides after the billet's forge welded, so it won't end up in the billet permanently. Oh. That's the pretty gases there. Need that to make the welds look pretty. Don't look. That'll be good there. I think I'm not gonna do it on the smaller billet because it's like what I normally do, and I think it'll be fine. I just really was a little nervous because of how long this billet is and how wide it is.
Yeah, argon.
These layers popping open once I get it in the forge. To forge out these billets, we've got a brand new forge that Dad spent quite a bit of time making. He's actually working on the final burner right now. This thing's a 4-burner Venturi style forge, so it's a lot different than my other forge that I've been using for many, many years. The idea behind the length of this is that I'll be able to heat up longer portions of metal and not need to heat up as many small sections, which takes a lot of time. I'm super excited to try it out. Hopefully it doesn't have too much of a learning curve to go along with it and make me ruin my billet because I got the billet too hot or didn't get it hot enough or something like that. A couple other cool benefits about this forge is it doesn't have a loud blower because it's just Venturi style. There's no forced air, so it's gonna be much quieter and actually better for videoing and stuff. The next loudest thing we'll probably have going on is actually the hydraulic press. It should be louder than the forge actually is. My old forge, it just used that vacuum cleaner, and that vacuum cleaner was loud. Another benefit is that this floor and the door is massive, allowing me to put a big, massive billet into this forge. My other forge would only allow like a little 4.5-inch billet. This thing can fit like a 5.5, 6-inch billet in here, so much, much bigger. Got the front 2 burners in the forge going. I'm gonna let this billet heat up while the forge is heating up. It's gonna take a while, by the way, Josh. This forge takes longer to heat up, plus that billet is massive, so the two together is gonna take a while.
Many minutes ago.
I've had the billet in the forge for 24 minutes. I think we're heated up. It should be ready to take out and get all those layers forge welded together with the 40-ton hydraulic press my dad and I had built. Need to move these bricks out of the way, pull this thing out, and start smashing.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Wow, hot. Holy.
This massive W billet is so big and it's radiating incredible amounts of heat. I noticed that just as I was taking out of the forge, it was burning my face. And as I was running the hydraulic press with my feet, it was burning the tops of my legs a little bit. Just the heat coming down through my jeans was so much.
This is so satisfying.
Yeah, I know.
Oh yeah. I want a hydraulic press. Let's build a hydraulic press.
I'm down.
All the fucking welds coming off of it. Look at that. That's so satisfying.
Yeah.
My dad set up this vise outside and I love it because it keeps the dust down in the shop with all the grinding. I just gotta be careful that I don't ram my car into it because it's technically in part of the driveway. For all this heavy grinding, I'm using a massive 5 horsepower, 9-inch angle grinder. This thing is a beast, and after I've used it for a while each day, it pretty much completely drains me of energy. This thing is hard to handle.
Oh, that is so hot when I open that door. Right on my face.
You're also wearing
The welds
Sure.
ground. Ow,
True.
hot on my arm. The welds ground off. Can I continue forging this thing out? Yeah, I should have done 2 smaller billets. This was a mistake.
third getting cold.
That is too much billet to handle.
Bruh. Look at those colors.
I think I almost need a face shield
Looks
and
crazy.
that welder's jacket. That thing's so hot when you open the door. It just, even though the fan's blowing the hot air away, the radiant heat just heated up my face. And then even my arms were hot, forging it. I'm gonna go get some water. Man, that's even bright with my forging glasses on. Jeez. I've definitely made a mistake. Definitely should have done 2 smaller billets. Never do a billet this big again. The sad part is, the scary part is, it's going to be even bigger when we combine this one with the other one. I'm not looking forward to that. It's so hot. My legs are getting hot. I put a welding jacket on. I can't drag the billet because it pulls the dies out. That's not a problem with little billets. With this one, actually have to have the dies fastened in there better.
Sam, I need you to take a dab every time he says billet.
Okay.
Oh, it's so hot on my knees right here. Wow, my knees are burning.
It looks so goofy.
He looks like a
It looks like he's riding like a tiny tricycle.
He looks like something out of like Spirited Away.
That's what I was just about to say. It's like a Studio Ghibli character.
Only riding the
The reason I
doohickey.
brought the billet back out to grind on it is because there's a couple little cold shut areas. You can kind of see this line right going down the middle here. The reason those are there is because my 1084 and 1520 wasn't all the exact same width. We had some really deep undercut areas that I TIG welded because everything wasn't the same width. And then when we forged those down, it kind of closed up those gaps and left these cold shuts. So I want to grind those cold shuts out now before the billet is completely forged because it'll be less grinding now and we'll end up with a nicer, cleaner looking billet later.
He said billet.
You billet a couple times, babe.
Yeah, he did.
Just caught the yard on fire next to the propane tank. Feet are bigger.
Bro's burning the yard.
Yeah, I don't wear women's size 9. I wear men's size 13.
Bro's really trying to convince us he doesn't wear women's
Both the
clothing.
billets together, I'm using about $150 or $200 worth of high quality.
I know what you guys say in the comments, but I promise.
I don't wear women's shoes. I don't wear women's shoes. I don't wear women's shoes.
Hard to handle, especially
Bro
as it gets
just
longer
caught the
and
grass
longer.
on fire by
Imagine you're in a
grinding next to his
campfire and you're
propane
roasting
tank.
marshmallows, but instead of a
And
marshmallow on the
continues
end
to
of your
do
stick,
so.
you have a 15-pound steel billet that you're wielding instead of the marshmallow. That's
Man,
what it's
stop
like to
saying
handle this
billet.
giant
I already got a dab loaded up in the chamber.
I need a ripskid dud.
Ripska billet.
What's he doing?
Satisfying to not be baked
He's
out of
tasting
my
the
mind.
forge.
He's tasting the forge air.
I just finished forging out the W layer billet. I've got the W's forged. I've got it to length. I'm going to let it cool down, then we'll be able to grind it clean, cut it up, restack it, and continue. Next, I'm going to work on the straight layer billet. Got it in the forge now. Going to get it up nice and piping hot, forge it together, start drawing it out. This billet we got to treat a little bit differently than the W layer billet. The W layer billet, we had to take those straight layers and turn them into C's. With this billet though, we got to take those straight layers and we got to make it so those straight layers go across the billet on a 45-degree angle. So later on, once I get it drawn out a little bit and forge welded together, I'll tip the billet over on a 45-degree angle and reorient all those layers and make them tip through the billet like this.
Bald man says billet 273 times in one video.
Ooh, it's got some little spark coming off of it. It's screaming hot.
If that was an alcohol challenge, you would probably die.
Hopefully it's not too hot.
Yeah.
I love using the 40-ton hydraulic press my dad and I built 17 years ago. It's so satisfying to heat up these
Take a
giant
shot every
billets of
time you
steel
say
and then
billet.
sit
How
there
do
and
you
slowly
build a
press at them
hydraulic
with this
press?
massive press and see the steel stretch out into a longer and longer piece.
Buy
And to have the ability to
You buy
find
one and
W's
then
and
say you
manipulate
built
the
it.
steel and make different patterns, all with the power of the foot pedals running the thing. Something interesting about this hydraulic press was that it only cost me $800 to make back in the day. That's because Dad had some good connections for the cylinder and for the hydraulic motor, and we made the frame out of Sinclair gas station signposts that were cut up and re-welded together, and most of the other material
fucking
in the
base.
press was scavenged.
DIY
and that's
till
how
I
we were able to
die.
Build it so cheap.
That is pretty big.
On this heat, I'm just gonna focus on these corners. On the next heat, we'll focus on the other corners. The key here is to try your very best to hold it at a 45-degree angle. That's gonna make the pattern go across this bar on a 45-degree angle when everything's said and done. On the next heat, I'm gonna work these other corners in.
Whoa, I got
just
an
like this.
explosion.
You can tell if you held it at a good 45-degree angle, if you hold it up on edge and that center line, that corner, should be centered on the billet. If it's off to one side or the other, that means you probably weren't quite on a 45-degree angle. Now we're gonna work these corners in. This is what's called re-squaring the billet. Basically, took the billet that was square, forged it from the corners, and we're turning it into a square in a different, dimension.
Did you hear what he just said, Sam?
What?
He said he's re-squaring the billet.
He's re-squaring the billet.
The main edges, and what were the main edges will now be the corners. This is what's going to allow this straight layer billet to form a nice little star. You want that
Sam,
star.
take a dab as red hot as that is that
extra
billet.
120 that was on the edge of the billet, that's going to become the star.
That's fucking scary.
Only instead of it being on the edge of the
That would
billet,
hurt.
now it's going to be kind of going across the corner of the billet. So when we put 4 of these pieces together, we're going to 4-way them. Put 4 pieces together, that'll form the entire 4-pointed star. Man, regular sized billets are so much more fun to forge.
I love the little like lever thing that jumps up and down as he dries the doohickey.
Yeah.
Looks like the end tore open a little bit there, but it'll be fine. She'll be right. I'm starting to love this extra long forge, because in my other forge, this next operation of forging out the bar would be 2 heats, because it wouldn't fit in there. But instead, since this whole thing will fit in there, the next operation I'll be able to forge the entire bar down at the same time instead of focusing on like the front half and then doing the back half and then back to the front half and then back to the back half.
Tasting that forge air again.
More importantly, lunch break. And more importantly, after that, my second 2 cups of coffee for the day. I burned through the first 2 too quick. Didn't ration them out properly. Almost done.
Bro drinks 4 cups of coffee.
One more heat for the small squaring die, and then 1 more heat to straighten the bar. Normally in the other forge, though, that'd be 2 more heats for the small squaring die and 2 more heats to straighten the bar. So I like this. It's so long, I need a foot pedal extension to get over here closer. I'm about to lay down. So these squaring dies are just going to clean up the billet, and they're going to turn it back into a nice square, because a lot of times the press will make things into kind of a diamond shape. And since we're gonna stack these up a certain way,
this
it'll
the
be
other
a lot
bar?
better for us if they're in a nice square shape and not a diamond. So this will clean it up, turn it back into a
I think
square
that's the
shape.
same one he's been working at.
Can barely reach these pedals. It'll also crisp up the corners a little bit.
I wasn't sure that one was kind of smaller. This is just, I don't know.
I think he's just finally worked into a good
He's
spot.
stretching it out like a big spaghetti noodle.
Alright,
Spaghettifying the billet.
1 more heat.
Oh, okay, it's longer than I thought.
Spaghettifying the billet. True, that's exactly what he's doing.
It was a little longer than it looked like. Maybe.
That's still a little rough. I probably should have ran it through the squaring die 1 more heat, but not going to. Alright. Let that cool. And then further processing.
One of the cool things about this Griffin sword is that it's going to be the biggest sword I've ever made. I made 2 swords before this one. The first one was Orion, and it had a 35-inch blade, and the handle was like a 1.5 hand. So you could kind of get 2 hands on the handle, but it wasn't made for 2 full-blown hands to be extremely roomy and comfortable, hence the 1.5 hand. The second sword was Excelsior, and it had a 36-inch blade, so 1 inch longer than the previous one. And again, it was a 1.5 hand style handle. This sword, the Griffin sword, is going to have a 37-inch blade, so yet another inch. And I know it's only 1 inch at a time, but every time you add an inch to a blade that's already this long, it actually adds some complexity and difficulty because that thing's getting longer and longer. But the handle on this
You're
one
talking
is
about
gonna
my
be a
dick size.
two-handed long handle. We have a roomy amount of handle to get both of your hands on the handle comfortably with some room in between them. So you'll have a lot of leverage and strength with both of your hands full onto this massive handle. Are you tired of
Bruh.
Introducing
Bruh.
the Mastersmith
He's
Toolkit.
talking about
It's a
cock.
downloadable PDF that brings together all the links I use in one convenient place.
He's
Imagine having instant access to all the resources I use right at your fingertips. The best part is, the Mastersmith Toolkit is absolutely free. That's right, sign up today and have
Did you just skip
instant
the
access
episode
to
list?
all the tools and materials I use without spending a
I
dime.
hate
So
the
click link
reunited
in the
episodes.
description
They're
and
so
Yeah, no,
boring.
they are pretty boring.
Here's our W layer billet. Check out how the layers look on each piece.
Because the rest of the episode is
I
going to
think
be
this is
like,
gonna look
oh,
really cool.
bloopers from the
You can see that
celebrities.
extra thick section of 15 and 20 running all the way down through the middle of each piece. Oh, it's going to be awesome. Take a look at this. Here's our straight layer billet with all the layers going across on a 45
Bro, her
degree
scarf
angle.
is a puppet.
Got some extra 15 and 20 over here on the corner. This used to be the edge of the billet, but now it's the corner. Now when we take all 4 of those pieces and we put them together like this, that is the pattern we're going to get. Look at that. We've got a nice bright 15 and 20 star in the middle of that billet, 4-pointed star. Got all these nice layers here going around the billet, and then some extra 1084 at the corners.
I'm very happy with the pattern on these. I'm calling it for a day though. I'm exhausted. And also, I gotta go get cleaned up because we are having a taco movie night with my brother and his family and my sister and their family. There's gonna be tons of nieces and stuff. So, whew, that was a lot of work.
Taco movie night.
It's Monday
Taco
morning.
movie
My goal for the
night.
day is to get our 2 billets, finish cleaning them up, and get
Their
them stuck
pizza
together
they
with
made
the
kind of looks like
get 'em in the
taco.
forge, get 'em drawn out,
True.
and get them reprocessed again.
What they
Depending on
tacos look
how
like
fast
then.
or how slow all that goes, maybe
It's
get a
actually
second
pizza.
forge well done on some, but I don't know if we'll get it all done like that because last time I made that goal, it was a little too much for one day. I definitely want to move forward and get as much done on this Damascus as I can today.
Forging Damascus steel can be
Bro,
really
what?
fun and glamorous, but you got to keep in mind that I probably spend 2/3 of my time at the grinder or the chop saw. There is a lot of billet preparation and cutting up of the steel to be done, so it's not all as fun as just forging out that molten steel all the time. The grind is real.
I got both the billets all cleaned up with 36 grit and then 120 grit. I had to grind all the scale off of the corners. There was still a little bit of scale on there that I didn't get with the angle grinder, and I wanted to smooth up the finish on the pieces themselves a little bit. They didn't really need it too much, but I like them to have this kind of finer finish without those really deep angle grinder marks. The next thing I need to do is stack this billet up. So I want all the pieces to mirror each other, so that means I need to fold it a certain way. I'm going to take these 2 end pieces, fold them up this way, so now these pieces mirror each other. And I'm just gonna fold them in this way, and that's our 4-way. So it's 2 by 2. With our W layer billet, I want all these pieces to mirror each other as well, but we're not gonna do the 4-way where it's 2 by 2. We're gonna just stack these up on top of each other. And then to make it mirror, we're gonna take this second piece here, and we're just gonna flip it over on this first one. So for the next piece, we're not gonna flip it over, we're just gonna set it on top of here, because it's mirroring this one. So for this final 4th piece, it needs to flip over. These billets are stacked up the way I want. I want to temporarily hold them together, so I'm going to use a little CA glue. I can position all the layers, get them all lined up where I want them with CA glue, and then we can begin MIG and TIG welding the billets solid. As I apply this CA glue, I got to be very careful. I don't get it anywhere near the edges, because we're gonna seal up the edges of this billet with the TIG welder, and the TIG welder, believe it or not, does not like CA glue. If you get a little CA where you're TIG welding, it'll just mess up the weld. It'll just kind of turn into a little lava pit and it won't hold anything together. I'm looking on the ends of the billet at the layers. I can line up the layers so they match throughout the billet as best I can get them. That end looks good. This end looks good. I'll try to spray a little accelerant. This makes the CA setup in an instant in a lot of cases, unless your CA is like extremely old and not setting up properly anymore. What are the weird hiccups that you burp every time you hiccup? I think not that kind. But you ever had that kind? Or no? Oh, it's the kind.
yes.
The kind of hiccups
Okay.
that aren't. Yeah, not burp. The hiccup kind where you like have a little cough, and every time you cough, you hiccup, but you don't hiccup any other time except for when you're trying to cough. I've had that kind before. I get those pretty frequently. Actually, it's really weird. Yeah, exactly. Only it's just one cough. You're like, just like that. And you can't clear your throat because the hiccup keeps interrupting the cough. I got the propane on at the bottle. I've got the regulator in the shop off. I'm gonna get the air adjusted on these Venturi burners. To start, they just want a little bit of air. Although I'm not very familiar with starting this because I've literally done it once, literally. We're just gonna do the 2 front burners until the billet gets longer. Just a little bit of air. Propane's off. Turn this propane on. Turn this valve on. Pretty much all the way. And turn this torch on. Stick it in there. Then turn this on. Hopefully no explosions. Oh, that is touchy. I barely touched it. You see that? Nope. Turn the propane off. Not that bad. Got the forge lit up. While it's heating a little bit, it's time to get a handle on the situation.
It's at
No
this
way
point
he
when I'm
made the
starting
same
to think I
joke.
should have squared up
Oh
this
my
bar
He did it again.
before I cut it up into 4 pieces and stacked it up. Because these bars weren't real square, I think we might end up with some cold shuts here, which could leave me with a lot of grinding to do.
All right, here we go. It's been about 20-25 minutes. The billet is piping hot. It's still massively heavy, but it's not as bad as it was because it lost a little bit of weight. I mean, not enough to really notice per se, but it'll get a little bit lighter here. We did cut those bits off the end, did quite a bit of grinding. Okay, I really got to watch the cold shuts now, so I'm going to forge it from this direction quite a bit. I don't want to get cold shuts in this thing. Cold shuts can be caused where those seams are. Those seams are kind of deep because I didn't square the bar up. So if I'm not careful, those seams can kind of pinch in on each other, and it could look like a bad weld that just doesn't go in very deep. Hopefully by hitting it from the side a lot, I'll be able to avoid those cold shuts. You see those big seams running down there. The reason I have those is because that bar had a funny shape on the edges because of the squaring die. A lot of times I'll square these bars up so they look more like this before I put them all together.
Take a bite out of that.
The bar was just exhausting me so much that I left the shape that way and thought I could deal with it later. Looks pretty good so far. I just need to make sure these don't close up and cause a black little seam. That's why I keep forging it from the edge and this direction.
Sure enough, it looks like the seams are kind of closing in on each other, forming cold shuts. So I want to stop right now, try to grind these seams out, get back to fresh material, and then continue forging out the billet before the cold shuts get real deep into the billet.
Alright, should have a little appointment with the angle grinder. That billet cracked wide open. doesn't mess up my billet.
I really hate using flux and only pull it out in emergency situations. I really hope it doesn't damage this brand new forge Dad just built.
He made it cuboid again.
I've got a rectangular metal pipe, and I'm using the end of it to kind of scrape the floor of the forge out. It turns out the flux that dripped off of the billet is literally melting the floor of the forge, and it's turning it into this goopy, gooey lava stuff.
Fuck.
Ah, it's getting hot. It melted the floor. Look at this big old gap here. Ah! Blowing fire through the pipe. Woo!
What's he doing?
I don't know. I think he's getting all the extra flux out, all the melted flux.
I absolutely did not want to use flux, but it was going to ruin the billet if I didn't. That's why I hate using borax, but that's the most fast short-term damage I've ever seen right there. Did you just see me scrape all that stuff out? The borax turned the floor of the forge into liquid where that borax got on there. It ate away at the floor faster than I was expecting it. That's why I really want to keep using flux to the minimum. Hopefully it won't be too big of a deal though. That's why I wanted to scrape that nasty gooey stuff of the floor out now. So tomorrow when the forge is cool, I can patch it up with some Satanite refractory cement. Man, I don't know. I sure hope the forge isn't ruined. Got the billet nice and piping hot again. I'm going to work at one more heat in these squaring dies before we move over to the flat die. Oh, yeah, another reason I don't like flux, it makes the billet stick to your die sometimes. Like just there a second ago, you saw it kind of stick and I had to slam it a little bit to get it loose. Also just creates a really big, thick, nasty scale. This is the problem. I mean, look at that. The floor is still melting. It's getting that gunk back on there, and then I go and forge it into the billet.
Alright, my duties, I'm going to bed.
Alright, brother. Have a good night.
Dude, that messed it up.
He got to the point of scraping skadoodle straight out the forge.
He's scraping that skadoodle right out the forge. Look at that.
The forge is all, the billet's all messed up now. It's covered in gunk from the floor. Now I'll have to like wire brush it off every time or something, or it's gonna jam all that stuff into the billet. Did you see that? It's still melting away.
I don't have the required badge.
Like, it's turned to just molten glass in there.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Got this crud on my billet.
I'm missing a badge. Oh, I know what badge I'm missing. I'm missing the saffron badge.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to stop forging. It's actually really bad. It's just melting away and leaving tons of crud there for the stick to the billet. Way worse than I thought it was gonna be. Yeah, I just stuck the corner on the floor there a little bit and see how much stuff it got on it.
As I'm forging on the billets, I'm keeping an eye on the forge floor. It looks like it's still molten and melting more and more of the floor away. I decided to scrape it out one more time to see how bad it was and make the decision if I need to turn the forge off now and let it cool down for hours and patch it up, or if I can continue working. It looks all shiny again, like the entire area is all molten, but I scrape it out one more time and it's actually not as bad as it looks. I think I've gotten rid of most of the flux and the forge floor is slowing down. It's not melting away as quickly now. Hopefully it won't be a big deal, but I'm going to keep forging. I want to get these billets forged out all the way to the dimensions that I want right now without having to stop, let the forge cool down, and patch it up.
This billet's a lot skinnier than I'd like. I kind of wish the billet was flipped around. Like I wish it was this wide and this skinny. I kept hitting it from the sides to get rid of those cold shuts, and now it's skinny. Huh. I might have to go back home and rethink my life. I wonder if I could press it with the big flat dies and get it wider without it getting a lot longer. And if not with the flat dies, then at least with, well, this one's flat. It doesn't have as much roundedness to it. That is, look how hot that is. Oil burning off of it. Oh man, changing these dies out. Buggers are heavy. I want to put a shim in here just to keep this die from sliding around. Not a big deal with little billets, but with this big one, I noticed I drag it on the bottom die a lot more and it can pull the die out. Yeah, until the shim catches on fire. Burns everything off except for the little bit. I can't up underneath there, and then this die is permanently stuck in place. Oh, goodness. Oh,
Oh shit, they're level 25. That is,
Every
I'm gonna
time it's like
fuck
a
this
shock
thing-
how
I'm gonna
heavy
fuck
it
this
is.
area up.
oh. Now's the time when I need a super mega press. Trying to get the billet wider without getting it much longer. I think it's kind of working. Yeah, actually, it's working really well. The other dies are my drawing dies, so they're rounded a little bit, and they actually make the billet get drawn out lengthways. That's pretty good. Still might have a little bit of a cold shut issue there, but shouldn't be too deep. We can catch it on fire. There we go. We keep the billet piping hot for this. Let's see, it's too much smoke. I'm not a big fan of that. Should I go grind on it a little bit more? I don't want to.
It's time for some more grinding. There's pretty much a never-ending amount of grinding to do on a billet like this. And it looks like I set the yard on fire again. Fire and propane
Jesus,
mix
man.
well, right?
Oh, oh, kind of nasty when the wind blows. Whoa. Whoa.
Oh my god, man.
Josh,
Oh, look
put
at
out.
it spreading, man.
You might notice some little metal blocks that say 1 1/4 on them next to the billet in the hydraulic press. I use those blocks as stopping blocks as I'm getting close to the final dimension I want the billet. That'll allow me to keep a nice consistent thickness across the entire length of the billet.
Gotta watch those chips falling on my leg. Might catch the pants on fire. Alright, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm gonna try squaring
Yes,
die.
your
This
Levi's.
is meant for squares,
Not the
not
Levi's.
rectangles, but maybe it'll square it up. I don't know. Oh,
Sorry, Wranglers.
scary. Scared me. That was just the die sliding. That's better. Okay. Alright. Well, let's stick it in the forge for now and we'll work on the other billet. Let this cool slowly. Maybe I'll cut it with the bandsaw or something tomorrow. I don't know. Woo-wee! Hot tamales. Look at them dies smoking. That's a pretty color. do on this one is cut it into 2 pieces. So we only need one side ground clean, because 2 pieces. The other side doesn't need clean because they're not going to be touching each other. Lots of petting involved. That's how you raise good, clean, forge welded billets. Give them lots of positive affirmation and lots of pets. 11 and a half. Half of 11 is 5 and a half, and half of half is 1/4. 5 3/4. Check twice so I don't end up with mismatched pieces. Spot on, 5 3/4. So then we'll mark this as piece number 1. Actually, is there any way that I could not know how they go? I think there's only one way they could go. Yeah, I don't think I need to mark it. But I'll do it anyway.
Why are you flicking his tongue like that? You're licking the fucking shrapnel.
Better push that inside.
Yummy
before I forget about it when I
shrapnel.
shut the garage door. Right on it. Give it a little dip in the ferric chloride here. You can see how this pattern looks. Whoa. Oh, that looks good.
Oh, that's crazy.
Look at that star right in the middle of the pattern.
I want
Big
to
old
eat that.
bright
I
15
wanna
and 20
eat
star.
that
Right
piece
now
of
it looks
metal.
black, but it's 15 and
Yummy
20,
candy metal.
surrounded by a thick layer of 1084. And then you've
Yummy
got regular layers and a little
medals.
thick 1084 here at the corners. Now the question is, do I have to throw this thing out or not? Because the welds look bad. And it's because it will split open and the borax did nothing except for the forge. So when I was grinding the end of this billet clean so I could etch it so we could see what the pattern looks like, I noticed a faint little line coming in the side and a really shallow one over here. Well, I think I know what happened. Normally when I put my billet into the forge, I like the billet to meet up with the forge, but since I was working with 2 billets at one time, the forge was already piping hot when I put this billet in the forge. And because of that, the metal expanded quickly, and those TIG welds that seal up the sides, they're not very strong at all, because there's no filler. So they broke open, and that's when I got the flux out to put some flux on there to try to keep the billet from not forge welding together properly. Well, it turns out one edge has a nasty little streak that goes in about 3/16 of an inch deep, and then it kind of tapers out. It doesn't go all the way around along the billet. It's worse in the middle where the billet puckered open a little bit. And there's just this little line in there that I could see when I etched the end.
Like I
So I need
said
to
billet
get rid
in
of
that
'cause I don't
sentence
want that
9
to be in the
times. I
final
counted.
knife, or the final sword, rather.
You gotta
So
take
when
9
we fix this,
dabs.
So it's just grind those bad spots out and then stick
True.
these back in the forge, flatten these out a little bit. There's still plenty of material here. We can flatten them out just so we have some better material to forge weld to, and then go ahead and continue welding these 2 billets together. I got those bad spots ground out of there. We've got these nasty grooves now, but I think it's gonna be fine. It's getting to be the end of the day, so tomorrow we'll go ahead and forge these down to a smaller size. This groove should disappear and the bar will be back to a nice rectangle. And I've also decided we don't need to go ahead and forge weld these 2 billets together. We don't need to do that now. We can totally make these the right size they need to be, and then go ahead and combine
Every
them
time
with
he
the
says
W layer
billet,
and then have
it
them
adds
just
up
forge weld all at the same
a
time.
dab
That'll save one
counter.
Hopefully the other bar doesn't have
For the
any
dab you have to
mistakes in
take at the
it,
end
and
of the
we'll be good to
video.
go. We'll definitely
Every time
find
it
out
says
on that
billet,
one tomorrow.
0.05 is added to the tab.
Jesus.
Yeah.
God.
0.05. No. 0.02 would be more fair.
Oh, that's flavorful. Normally tea's too
Bro,
watery.
he said I watched 2 minutes of this video. I'm out of
It's
dabs.
Really bitter.
Well, that's. Oh,
It's almost like
Hold on,
they
clip
actually-
this.
no, it probably would get to like a 0.5 dab pretty
I
quick.
thought I was gonna have a really loud, like, obnoxious fart, but I just had a really, like, quiet, like,
Did you see the bar yet? It doesn't go very
like
far.
nothing fart.
It's not gonna mess the pattern up
Homie's
too much
probably
because it's
said
kinda
billet
straight here,
over
so it's
55
not-
times in this video, at least.
I look at the comments, see if somebody
Mild steel
counted.
filler. I'm just gonna use a little bit of it. and I'm
Someone
gonna
had
fill it,
to.
I don't care, and if it's I'll grind it out.
Wait,
5 o'clock?
the video's over, almost over, and he hasn't finished the sword?
If I buy a 22 version of that gun I have in here, I gotta buy that now. So mom can go shooting with us.
I will see you
Are people
in the
pissed
next
about it?
video. May the forge be with you. Bye-bye!
Okay. Is that the... Is that the next one?
I'm making one of the most epic swords of my life, and I'm inviting you to be a part of the journey.
I'm just
The
gonna
world's
assume.
popped open, even with filler. Too big, too long. Gotten ridiculous. This whole thing is gonna be scrapped. It's not gonna be wide enough for the blade. I need it at least a 1/4 inch wider. I'm not
I think
making
it's
my
just
sword
gonna be
skinnier. It's gotta be wide enough for the sword. It's Tuesday morning. It's kind of chilly. It's just about freezing out right now, but it's going to be about 61 degrees later on today. Today we need to get the bottom of the forge patched up because a little bit of the floor
Oh,
moved
yeah,
away
this is the
from
same one.
the borax flux I used. We also need to forge out our straight layer billet a little bit because it's got those funky grooves in there. We need to grind out that nasty stuff. And we need to continue processing our W layer billet and hopefully get it combined together with the straight layer billet into one massive billet today. And then get that drawn out too. Coffee break. That is so good on a cold morning.
Coffee break.
Curl up inside of that warm cup of coffee, actually. Nope. Got that all over. Here, let's turn it into something you can breathe. Got some Satinite refractory here. I'm gonna mix this up with some water, and we're gonna use that to patch that little low spot in the forge. I don't want it super thin, because the thinner it is, probably the more it's gonna crack up. I'm not gonna be letting this dry very much at all. I'm turning the forge on pretty quickly. That's gonna make it crack up more. I'm gonna make it pretty
I'm
thin.
getting this guy out of here because I know he's gonna use
It's not like we need
explosion.
it thin enough to coat the walls or anything. All we're doing is getting that floor patched up. This is basically going to be a high temperature concrete when I get this mixed up.
I just called it. Fucking called it.
Different kinds of castable refractory hold up against the molten flux differently. This stuff didn't hold up very well at all. I have used some in the past though that held up amazingly. Regardless, the Satinite refractory will patch up the floor really nicely and it'll resist the flux pretty well in the future. The reason the entire floor forge wasn't made out of the Satinite refractory is because if you use it like a thick concrete, it will crack a whole bunch as it dries and shrinks. So it doesn't work great to make the entire floor out of Satinite, but it can be used to great effect to patch things and to put a coating on all the kaol wool in the inside of the forge.
Neat.
Satinite refractory.
Neat.
Got the forge lit
Satinite
up,
refractory,
got the forge
Richie.
patched.
Satinite refractory. Ordina liturgical tower.
That's right.
I mentioned yesterday that
Satinite refractory, Ordina liturgical.
Satinite refractory, Ordina liturgical
Gascolation.
Gascolation. Gascabation, basculation.
Forge welding these together, letting it cool, reprocessing it, and then adding it in. I think it'll save a step and make things go a little bit smoother.
So, what do you think about Satinite refractory?
I like it. I like Satinite refractory. I'm a big fan.
Expanded. That patch I did expanded and sticking above the surface now.
Would you rather have a pound of Satinite refractory or
Time to get a
a
handle on
pound
the
of
situation.
toenails?
I'd probably have a pound of Satinite refractory.
If you dropped a pound of Satinite refractory and a pound of toenails at the same time, which one would hit the ground first?
Yeah, I've got the first billet all heated up here.
Depends
I think I'm
on.
gonna start by making it a 1 square.
That depends on
and then
whose
we'll,
toenails
process
they
it down
are.
further.
It depends on whose toenails they
That
are.
little groove I made, make sure it closes up okay. Oh, that's already looking really good. I think this is gonna work and it's gonna save our billet. Had that little bad spot in the billet.
Save our billet.
Round it
Save
out,
this billet.
Forge it down. Think we're gonna be golden. So we want it 9 3/4 finished.
We gotta save our
Long
billet.
way to go.
You gotta save this here
Go
billet.
ahead and forge it smaller. Dude, I think my mistake's gonna be fixed. The last little bit of the groove right there. We're gonna square these bars up on the next operation, get them as square as possible before I forge them down to the final dimension. Right now they're a little bit diamondy shaped. Yeah, that's looking good. That we can handle. We can put that, if there's a little bit of that groove left over, we can put that on the outside of the billet too.
Billet.
the billet
Bill
now
it.
before I forge
Bill
the
it.
final dimension. Using my small squaring dies. The press has a tendency of making things into kind of a diamond shape, so I like to run it through a set of dies like these whenever I need it to be nice and square. These dies are amazing. Could probably use a couple more sizes. I could use one that's one size smaller and then one that's maybe a little bigger. I have a really big set already.
His fucking neck like this while he's on the thing.
That, dude.
I got our two segments
I
of
noticed
the
his
straight
like
layer
posture,
mosaic
and that's
billet.
why.
I got 'em forged
Yeah.
out to the dimensions they need to be. I'm
He
gonna
got
go
that
ahead and
gamer
start
neck.
grinding and getting these
Because
things
when
cleaned
he
up.
works,
We're also gonna
he's like
grind and
turned
clean
into
up
a
the
video
double layer billet
game
to begin
leader.
the process of getting these cut up and combined all into one absolutely massive billet.
Something cool about sealing up billets with the welder
Earth
or
power
wrapping
is
them in
so
sheet
good.
metal to seal them up is that your pieces forge weld together and all the gaps close up beautifully. If I weren't sealing the pieces shut with the welder or sheet metal, I would probably need to make sure all the pieces were flatter by surface grinding or milling them so they fit tighter together. I normally don't have to worry about gaps though because I'm sealing everything up. No oxygen or air can get inside the billet and everything forge welds closed and looks beautiful in the end.
It's time to see how the pattern looks on our W layer billet. We should have 4 W layers now because we took that one W layer piece, cut it up into 4, and re-welded it into this. I'm gonna etch both ends so I can see how the pattern looks, see if I need to cut more off of one end or the other. Okay, here's the pattern. Whoa. Oh, that looks cool. That looks really cool. Oh, yeah. I like
that.
it.
I really
Look
like
at
that.
Look at that extra thick bold layer
That
in the
is
middle.
so cool.
Yeah, Josh, I'm convinced. Those weren't cold shuts. I bet every one of those seams broke loose on the TIG welding. I mean, it's probably not gonna really hurt the pattern, but I'm disappointed about it. Look at how these look after I got them forged down smaller. That looks good. Here's how they're gonna look in the pattern. We're gonna have these 2 stars connected to each other, and then the W layer is gonna go here, and we're gonna have another one over here on the other side, sandwiching it all in. Pattern's looking good on both of the billets. I need to go cut these up some more, clean them up on the 2x72 grinder, and then we can move forward with this billet. I'm gonna go do that right now, and I will be right back. I'm back. I've got all the pieces cut up, and I also ground on them with a little 36 grit and then a 120 grit finish, so everything's nice and clean, ready to go together. We do, however, have to add in some extra layers at this point. We're not just gonna be forge welding these billet pieces together. I actually wanted to add in some 15 and 20 layers in between the 2 billets, and I was kind of thinking about some 1084, but I need to stare at a piece of paper for a minute and make up my mind on what I'm doing there first. Okay.
Hours later.
So I'm gonna try doing something I've never done before. Hopefully it doesn't ruin this entire billet. I want to add some 15 and 20 in between the big W layer billet and our mosaic billet. So like right down here.
We're getting contemporary.
Homie getting contemporary with it.
Wider
Ricky,
than
did you watch
my
it,
15
Webster?
and 20
Yeah.
I keep on stock. Except I have some of these really wide pieces. They're not long enough.
That was a hard
I'm
one.
gonna try something I've never done before. Hopefully it won't ruin the whole billet. I'm gonna take these pieces.
Thank God.
And TIG weld the ends together.
I like
We're gonna
Sasha.
TIG weld them.
I
Well,
want
I
Sasha
like-
to
I
win!
I like both of
Also
them.
made from 15 and 20, so the weld will all be 15 and 20. I think it'll work okay, but I hope it doesn't mess anything up. That was already the right size. Did you see that? I didn't adjust the setting on it at all. Oh, I feel like a mad scientist. In the way. In the way. Clamps. In the way. I got 100% penetration on some of it. Yeah, you can.
100% penetration.
100% penetration.
Welded it solid right here. Those little spots. there. The weld went all the way through. Didn't go all the way through everywhere, but
Excuse
this
me.
second patch will fix that. Oh, should have let off the heat when I got to the end there, but that's fine.
Is this who won last season, Liz?
Yeah.
I'm still learning. Always learning.
Oh no, not last season.
Ta-da!
No,
I make
yeah.
long pieces.
I guess season
15
8
and
was
20.
the season before season 9.
And
That
this
makes
was
sense.
cut off of a strip of 15 and 20. So
Yes.
it's all 15 and 20. The filler's 15 and 20. No foreign material in there. I think this is going to work really good. And that was pretty satisfying to make something that I didn't have on hand. Oh yeah, I'm getting better at TIG welding right before my eyes. Look at that one. See that? The weld went all the way through. That's solid. There and there. Not quite here in the middle. But I'm sure it went at least halfway, so once I make it past on the other side, we're gonna have 100% for sure. Forget forge welding, let's just TIG all the Damascus together. Oh, don't show that. Skip. I did a pretty one, Dad. Look at that one.
Oh, who did that?
Proud of that one.
Who did that?
I had 100% penetration on the ends, but not the middle. Solid 15 and 20 because it's filled with 15 and 20. Yeah, that should work, huh? Make what I needed?
Absolutely.
I think it will. Alright, I've got to cool these down and get them cleaned up.
Bro, we be doing goofy shit.
Bro, he be doing
I don't know if
goofy
you
shit.
know. I don't know if you know. This.
I'm not sure if you're aware.
That like same motion.
This-
I just got these cut to length, and I want to settle something that's been on my mind for a while. If you weld with the TIG welder 2 pieces of high carbon steel together and you use high carbon filler that's the same type of steel, how hard is that weld seam compared to the rest of the material around it? You know it's going to auto harden to some degree when you weld it because it's heating it up to like molten hot temperature and cooling down quickly. I'm super curious. I've never had, up until now, a way to figure that out, but now we have the Rockwell tester. So I'm going to take one of these in just for fun, to satisfy my curiosity, and see how hard that weld joint is compared to the rest of the material around it. I'm not going to be super scientific about it and do like 15 tests and then average out all the numbers or anything. I'm just going to do a quick little test on the weld and then out here in the open, just so I can satisfy my own personal curiosity. Gravity break. That is ice cold and gone.
Gravity
First,
break.
I'll do a test out in the open. The steel should be relatively soft. Place that there. Run this table up to the diamond point. Now when I crank this lever, wherever this dial lands, that'll be our Rockwell hardness out in the soft areas.
Who's that Gandalf in the background?
That's a fucking super great observation. That is Gandalf.
But it shouldn't be too inaccurate at that point. Let's go ahead and
Is that
see
pose?
what
Gandalf is
That's
so
sick.
goofy.
That goes hard as fuck.
Parent 15 and 20 material. I'm gonna guess that that weld is gonna be.
I can't tell what that is on the right.
45 Rockwell.
That's
Four,
some
three,
sort of
2, 1.
something or other.
Holy smokes!
Lord of the Rings.
Or oh yeah.
Wowzer!
That's the end
I
off
think
again.
the
I thought
maximum
so.
Rockwell on 15 and 20, like the hardest you could possibly get it, has got to be somewhere around 66, maybe 67. I don't even know if you can get it that high. This came in at 64 and a half. That is incredible, the difference in how hard that weld got. That was way, I was expecting it to be like 45, you know, hard, but not like hard enough to make a knife. But that is full on hard enough that you could temper that and have a good blade right there where that weld is. What a fun little experiment test that I wouldn't have been able to do without this Rockwell tester. I love this thing. This thing is so much fun. Not necessary, but really validating. That was cool. Results! Results!
We're really gonna run the metal dealer.
No.
Hey yo. This shit ain't hitting.
This shit ain't hitting, God.
Way in there. It's got a big old center punch mark. Now I'm gonna get back to it. I'm gonna clean these pieces off, wipe them down with a paper towel. Maybe get a clean paper towel. Get all the junk and debris off here, and then we're gonna CA glue these together to temporarily hold them, so we can then weld them together. Everything's clean. It's time to fold up this billet, get it all stacked up. I'm gonna make all the pieces mirror each other, so this is the order the bar goes in. I'm gonna fold it around like this. Set it on here. Need one of these underneath it, actually. There we go. Put one on top of it. Flip it over. That is our entire stack. Now I need to get all these pieces CA'd together. I'm glad it's the end of the day because I am scared to forge weld this thing. Like, barely pick it up. Look at that. This is the
Okay. Okay.
terrified to have to handle this thing tomorrow.
I was gonna be upset.
Oh, on the end of the stick.
I was like, yeah, no, I was stressed.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Deserved.
Too much glue that might have just squeaked out
Facts.
to the edges, and then it's gonna inhibit my TIG welding from working, and I'm gonna breathe fumes, and the billet won't forge weld together because there's gaps because the TIG welder didn't feel it, and many problems. Dude, you know I just welded two pieces together and made a longer piece. It's just about the end of the day. Before I finish though, I want to MIG weld up the ends of the billet so it can just sit there and cool overnight. That way it won't be piping hot and burn my hand when I go to do the TIG welds on the edges tomorrow. And I'll be able to handle it so I can wire wheel it and stuff too. I'm gonna let that cool overnight. The thing is, I'm gonna use filler, but I won't really have to add filler with my left hand as I weld because we've got that extra 15 and 20 sticking out, so that'll act as filler and just melt down as I TIG weld these seams up. I do not want any more billets spreading open on the inside, so I'm gonna be extra careful about that from now on. As far as what I got done today, we got that billet drawn out. We got it down to the right size to combine in here. We got our big billet all processed up. The big
That
W
really
billet.
fucked me up.
Got it
I'm
all
like
brown,
really
clean,
awake.
got everything cut up. TIG welded those side pieces in there. Got this billet ready for TIG welding tomorrow. Gotta be ready to get a handle on the situation tomorrow.
His fucking face. I love this guy so much.
It's Wednesday. Today I want to get this billet all sealed up with the TIG welder. I want to get it in the forge, and hopefully I can manhandle this
He is.
20-pound billet, and we'll get it forge welded together, get it drawn out, and we've got
We've got to know this guy really well over the past like 2.5 hours.
True.
I had it muted, but I was watching it. I did not think he was gonna
really
stop
going to
like
come
that.
into play, and it's going to make this pattern amazing.
This guy's the definition of non-toxic masculinity.
Absolutely.
Welded to the end of a stick. It's going to be heavy. Okay.
I love
Did you
this.
see it after he sat it down?
Sticking in there, it feels like it would be sticking out of my neck, but it's not. I always want to double, triple check I have glasses on. No, those wires come out of that thing, and they'll actually stick into your skin if they hit you just right. Definitely want glasses on when you're using this. Ooh, shiny when you wire wheel it.
Shiny when you wire wheel it.
True.
Yeah, I mean, the way you said that was really weird.
Let it all slowly
Man, spitting facts though. It is shiny.
Shiny wire wheel it.
It do be shiny when you wire wheel it.
When you wire wheel it.
It do be shiny when you wire wheel it.
From the 15 and 20 sticking up there, melting down and giving it a little bit more of a puddle. It'll make that weld stronger
Why is he in the dark?
compared to having nothing there to-
Like, if I'm welding
Why
hot
is he
metal,
in the
like,
Also kind of bending
He's in a full pitch black room welding shit.
I feel like it's like a welding
the
thing.
smaller billet to the bigger
I
one.
don't even know.
No, he
I don't
fucking
know.
It's
Maybe
the camera. He's not in a dark room. It's the camera. He lowered the exposure
Oh.
so you could see what he's doing.
Oh,
That
okay.
hose is getting hot.
That makes sense.
Run this thing
Hot.
at 200 amps all the time. I might need to get a water
But I think it's funnier to imagine he's in a pitch black room doing
yeah.
this.
No, you're right. The contrast is like.
Did that one crack open? It's got that much filler from the 15 and 20 sticking up.
Yeah, all you'd be able to see is just
Some
arc
of these
flash.
welds are cracking open on me right after I'm done, even with all that extra 15 and 20 that was sticking up, acting as filler. So I'm gonna go over the welds and
Hey, the
use a
Karate
little bit of
Master.
mild steel filler. Hopefully that'll have a little more flexibility to it and it'll hold this together. I might
Slime
end up
Town
breaking it
welding
right a little bit.
contest.
I'll see how
Oh,
it goes
dude.
after I do the
I'd
weld.
fuck you guys up.
Make that decision.
I'd fuck you guys
Slime
up.
Town.
She does get certified to weld.
Who can weld the,
Certified.
who can weld the cleanest line?
I've welded before. I'm not
work on
certified,
the
but
new
I've
fishing.
welded.
This billet that I don't
Let's
normally
go
face,
work on
and
the
I
new
think it's
paper.
mostly due to the size.
Oh, that's good.
True.
Longer than they are most of the time when I'm cutting them up and
We
making
show
them
up
like
and we
this.
say we'll
And
build it.
because
We'll
they're
do it.
building
Don't worry,
you're
guys.
welding these pieces together,
I got
they're building up a
It
lot
really
of
wants to
heat,
teach
and
this
the
guy
metal
to
wants to
weld.
expand as it's getting hotter, and so it's cracking welds open left and right and doing all sorts of weird things that I normally don't run into with shorter, smaller pieces of Damascus. With just the right amount of filler from the TIG or the MIG welder, I think we'll be able to hold these pieces together without those welds breaking open as the metal starts to
I feel like
heat
if
up
I
and
were to
expand.
decide to like learn a trade, I would want to learn welding.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
You always need welders.
It's really
Always
satisfying to pull that out.
Always need welders.
Do it. It feels really good.
They
It's
get
like
paid
pulling
really
the
well.
sugar out of your nose.
Oh
Just
yeah.
feel that relief. You see all that stuff falling out? That's also how I pick my nose. I bang on it with fire.
This guy's such a goober.
I know. I want to hang out with him.
What have I gotten myself into here? Time to get a handle on the situation.
Time to get a handle on the situation.
I feel like if I came over, this guy would offer me Ritz crackers with cheese on them.
You have to take a dab every time he says billet, but you have to take a shot every time he says let's get a handle on the situation.
Hey Richie,
Furthest I'll probably be able
What?
to put my
do you
hand up
like
is about right here. I'll probably have
Jackie
the cigar
Chan or,
on
or Bruce Lee?
Oh man.
Oh man, I feel like I like Bruce Lee.
Oh,
Okay.
it's heavy. It is heavy.
Why?
Both. I was offered Pokemon that were based off of those two fighters. One is Hitmonlee, which is the kicking guy, and one is Hitmonchan, which is the punching guy.
I'm hoping they won't
Okay.
have
I like
any problems
Hitmonlee
with,
more,
weird things like
so
we
that was
had
a
the
good
last
choice.
couple times we did some forging on billets. I'm gonna go ahead and get a Griffin sticker on this billet. So hopefully the luck of the Griffin will protect this billet and grant us great
Wait, he
forge
put the sticker on the billet?
Yeah, it's just gonna burn right off. It's not gonna matter.
Burn, Griffin. That burned.
After the past 2.5 hours, I have a very strong understanding of what the word billet means.
That Griffin burned off in a
Why don't you
It just
share?
got
Why don't you
obliterated
share what
by
that
that
is?
forge.
As if we didn't before.
A
While I was
billet
trying to make jokes, I heard a
A
pop
billet
sound coming
is
out
a
from the
series
forge. So I
of
wanted to take
pieces
my
of
billet out to
steel
see
that
if
are
everything
welded
was okay.
together and
The weld
forged
pops open,
together.
even with filler.
I didn't know that.
I'm gonna not pull any stops. We're making
Now I
this
know
shut.
that.
Now you know.
I think it's because these bars are so
What kind
big
of build
and
it
so
be a
thick, and they're also longer
solid,
than they would normally be at
singular
this point.
piece of
So
steel?
those long, thick bars
I don't
have
see
a
why
lot of
not.
power to bow up as they start to heat up.
I don't
So
see why
it
not.
expands when it
I don't
gets
see
hot,
why
and
not.
it's bowing up
I
and
feel
just
like it
breaking
could be
those welds.
considered
So
a
I'm gonna-
billet.
I'm gonna
I
put
feel
some
like that's
more
tech.
solid
I
weld
feel
on
like
there.
Like any hot forged piece of like metal made for some utensils
Yeah.
like blade I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like any piece of metal that's like intended to be the baseline of like a forging excursion could be considered a billet.
Forging excursion.
I bet that's creating a tremendous amount of stress. These outside
Like if
ones are
you're to
heating up,
forge
they're wanting
a copper sword out of a big copper rectangle, is that not the billet? Is that not a copper
got a
billet?
little hole here leaking.
I would think so.
Little smoke coming out of it.
That was my thought.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I just got a little whiff of burning.
I feel like when you do this, it's just
Billet.
like, complicated.
Okay.
Need to get this
Unique
billet
billet.
hot
Wait,
enough
what?
to where,
I guess this billet,
tremendous amount of
this
stress
billet,
anymore
I guess
without
he's
those
because his
weld
goal is
cracks.
to make
Once the billet
fucking
starts flowing a little bit, that metal will
whatever the fuck it
soften up
is.
a little bit, and it won't have so much outward
Okay,
pressure on the
it
weld,
is.
I think.
Okay, there's a lot of
I'm starting to get
definitions of
excited
billet,
about how this
but the
pattern
one that we're
develops
looking at is
combine
each
both
a
of these
series
billets
of short
together. I've got
cylindrical
this
pieces
massive billet
inserted
heated up
at
to about
intervals in
2300
decorative hollow
degrees
moldings.
Fahrenheit. One cool
Or
thing about forge welding is that it
a
only takes
rectangle
one
placed
pass under the
vertically as a
hydraulic press to
change.
forge weld these separate billet pieces
Or
together
a
in
thick
one
piece of
solid
wood.
piece. After the first pass, I
The
can
Or-
thick piece of wood.
A place, usually a civilian's house or non-military facility where soldiers are lodged temporarily.
Oh, billet.
The billet.
I'm gonna grind those MIG welds out of the billet right now, and then we'll continue forging.
Even though the billet doesn't look like it's glowing hot right
Whoa.
now, it's actually
say?
very hot. It's so
Whoa.
bright out that you can't see it, but the billet's probably 1500 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's so big that the mass from the billet is just radiating tons of heat.
He
as I'm
says
sitting
it's
here
so.
grinding away
I
at
feel like
this
he's
weld.
doing it on
Besides
purpose.
all the heat radiating
For same
onto
billet
it,
that
it's
much?
Yeah.
easier to grind on a billet that's
It just
about
blows my mind. They just caught the grass on fire like 4 separate occasions, and it's just like casually going to town. Same spot.
And it just eats away at the metal really aggressively.
Just keep a glass of water nearby or something.
Nah, when it gets too bad, you just tell the cameraman to stop too.
Holy moly!
Oh, fucking
Holy moly.
Holy moly, that billet is
Love how
hot.
it's forged at.
That's a hot
Really
billet. Holy
We
moly.
talk about the scale that's forming on the outside of the billet and then falling off. What's happening is the outside
Sam, would
of
you
the
rather
scale
take
is
a hot billet to the cock and balls or a red hot nickel ball?
The scale gets so thick that it starts to fall off the outside of the billet as soon as
Oh, I'm
outside
going
of
with the
gets
billet,
heated
baby.
by
Hit me with
the
that billet.
hydraulic forging press. As I'm forging the
Oh
billet,
my
the scale
God, no.
forms and begins falling off as I go down.
Hit
the
me with
billet,
that billet.
my way back over and over and over again. I don't know how much during the total project, but I know there's
That is
quite a bit of
so
scale
fucking
that forms and
Studio
falls off
Ghibli
as I
type.
forge the billet. And every time I heat that billet up and forge it out, there's a new scale forming and falling off. If you think about it, this billet's probably going in and out of the forge
That's
at least
so
100
funny.
times during
That's
the
so
process
funny.
of creating the sword. Probably a lot more than that, though. And every time you've got more and more scale falling off. So in the grand scheme of things, you do lose a fair amount of metal as the scale, because that metal is just turning.
Hydraulic
completely
press
on the
was
scale and just
inspired by the
falling
guy
right
that
off onto the
fucking
ground and is useless
delivered
now.
the
So
fucking
that's one of the reasons
sense
why I need to
in
start with
fucking
an
Spirited
oversized
Away
billet in the beginning of the project.
in the boiler room.
Because you have to account for scale.
Oh,
you
we
have to
need to
account
tease
for
the water.
Yeah.
nasty stuff that you
Yeah.
grind off. You have to account for cutting the ends of the billet off, and you also
He's
have
the
to account
guy
for
with,
errors.
like,
Sometimes I'll make little
fucking,
errors
like,
and
6
little
arms
things
down there
happen.
with
You
the
gotta
little,
grind
like,
this
soot
deeper,
sprites.
do this,
True,
do
that
this,
is him.
And you want to have enough material in the end to make your desired piece.
Liz, let's do this.
We'll turn the shed into a welding station.
That's what
Let's
we were
do
talking.
this.
That's what we were saying.
Oh, you like, you could, you probably need a bigger shed. But
Yeah.
oh, that would be so cool if you like got like a nice shed and like ran, like got like electric run out there.
Yeah.
There's electric out there.
Yeah, I'd like to figure out what the electric situation is in that shed.
It's there.
Like it worked. I know. But I want to figure out if the wiring is like
Is it,
good.
if it's old or needs to be like replaced or whatever.
That is gonna be
Yeah,
a
I mean,
chore.
we can like
Holy moly.
renovate it. We just gotta figure out what the fuck we do.
Yeah, are those
Honestly, I don't remember what
sides
it even
okay?
looks like or how big it is, but
It's kind of janky. It's really old. It looks like
I think it's time to turn on the third burner.
I feel like I don't remember it being big enough or like safe enough for like a forging situation.
I feel like you could fit like a forge in there and like an anvil and shit. Although I don't know if you would. Now that I'm thinking about it, the whole thing is kind of made out of wood.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
I think
definitely
if
want
we were
like,
gonna do anything in there, we would have to like break up the foundation because it's like so fucking uneven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, there's like just an unfinished wall
I think we gotta change dyes. I don't think this is the right dye.
on the other side.
No.
not that y'all have the money for it, but you can get like a just
I
like
started
literally like a
re-squaring the
fully
billet on a 45-degree
done
angle.
shed.
I caught it right away.
Yeah.
Like have like the
45-degree angle
pad
is
like
not what
poured
we
by
want on this
companies for
re-square.
cheap. Or
If I re-square the billet on a 45-degree angle right now, it's going to make our pattern in the middle of the billet go across on a 45-degree angle. That's not what I want.
But
I want
then
it to
you
go
literally
across,
can
but
just,
not
like,
quite on a 45-degree
drop
angle.
off an entire
So I
shed.
need to do some
So
kind of
that's-
weird wonky angle that's less than 45 degrees.
We've like talked
and I
about
say it's
like
weird
wanting
and
to
wonky
renovate
because
the
the
shed.
billet acts really weird.
Yeah,
and
we
wonky.
initially
As I'm
wanted to like
working
run
on
our
this
house
angle,
shows through
it's
the
wanting to,
shed,
like,
but
put sideways pressure and twist
that's a
and
lot of
stuff,
work.
and I have to keep fighting
That would be a lot of
it.
work to like set up.
This really feels like I'm intentionally
no.
ruining my billet.
It's a lot. And like I said, I don't even remember
Doing
how
weird
big
stuff like this.
it was.
Oh. Look at this. I can't reach the.
I feel like the basement's a lot
Crazy
more
pedals.
practical for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, my knees. Aha. Not to mention the scale falling off can fall on my legs. Ah.
I'm done re-squaring the billet in just that one dimension. I need to get the billet straightened up a little bit though, and I'm just going to use a hand hammer for this before I start re-squaring it in that second dimension.
Is homie not wearing earplugs? I love the slow motion. He really is doing the whole thing in slow mo.
Get it nice and piping
Bro.
hot, and then we're going to continue re-squaring
Bro
the
made-
billet. This
Bro
time though, I'm going to
made
stick
the
it up on
fucking
edge, and we're going to work
rings
those
of
other
power.
corners in. Also, all the flame you're seeing is a little bit of cinematic effect. Josh and I thought it would be fun to throw some popsicle sticks in here for some added flame as I forge this billet. Also, I'd like to say that burning the popsicle sticks smelled really good in the shop. The billet's pretty unwieldy.
Really
To get
good.
these
Really
corners
good.
forged in, it keeps wanting to twist on me a
Love
little
the
bit
smell
because
of
those
burning
corners aren't on a
popsicle
perfect
sticks.
45 degree angle. They're
Just
off center, so I want to get that pattern going on a weird kind of
Not
wonky
really
angle.
good.
And
I guess if the
those
only
corners
thing
are
you
opposite
get
each
to
other, so
smell
every
is
time I
molten
smash
steel
on
all the
billet,
time,
it's
maybe
twist
burning
my
wood
hand,
smells
I gotta
great.
do my
Yeah,
very
true.
best to hold on a nice 90-degree angle.
What
to
does
the
molten
plane that we
steel
were forging
smell
in the
like?
last session.
Not great. I mean, there's not really a whole lot of it. It's not like a super heavy smell. I mean, once you put it in water, there's a smell. Once you like quench it, there's a smell.
The things I wish I really thought of.
Kenny walks into his garage and he sees you doing this.
He sees me doing like the fucking foot thing. I built a fucking hydraulic press out of the fucking materials in his basement.
I mean, look at this. I don't
He
know.
sold his other sword for 65 grand. That's insane.
Run the
That's
controls.
nuts.
I can't. Someone.
fucked up by not eating dinner.
Too long.
Should eat something.
The billet's getting really long. It's almost long enough to where I need to work one half of the billet and then maybe cut the handle off and weld one on the other end and work the other half. You can see here I almost get to where there's an air hose in the background because of the angle that the press is on. That's something else. If I'm going to work with billets this long, I might need to angle the press so there's more room behind the press, in between the press and the wall, for these really long billets.
Bro created the Rings of Power and united the 4 realms.
This is quite the banana.
This is quite the banana.
What the fuck? Why did he say that?
I think probably because it's curved.
Because it's banana shaped.
He's working on it.
It's gotten ridiculous. Oh, I'm not very good at running it like this. I gotta really put my foot on a long angle.
It stresses me out when he stops doing it and like starts talking because I'm like, that metal is cooling down. And you're just talking.
True.
I stopped worrying about it because he didn't seem that worried about it. I did
Yeah.
it first.
Maybe that was bad. Oh, that's so much nicer. Even though I can't really handle something as long as the forge all at once, I'm still heating up an area longer than would fit in the other forge, so it's still utilizing like half of this long forge, even now. Something's making these billets curve like crazy in this dive.
Something's making these billets curve like crazy.
Working out really nice.
Making these
It was
billets
just
curve
too
like
long to work all in
crazy.
one session at a time. So having this little handle here, just doing half of it is perfect.
Wrapping up the day, I am exhausted. That was the biggest billet I've ever wrestled in all of my years of knife making. That was exhausting. We've got it forged down into like a 1 3/8 inch square, and tomorrow it can be cut up, ground, cleaned up, and we're gonna 4-way that. We're gonna see what our pattern looks like.
He's gonna turn the billet into another billet.
Picture on the end.
He's gonna 4-way it.
He's gonna double billet.
That big billet forged out. It's only gonna get lighter from here as we continue forging it out more. Oh, that tastes funny. That's cold. Sorry.
His mom poisoned his coffee.
Tastes funny. It's a special poison that just makes him go into a coma until Friday. That's why she said see you Friday.
Processed, cut up into 4-weight, re-squared,
It's so
processed
stupid.
again, and hopefully 4-weight a second time. And then get that drawn out, get it cooling slowly overnight, and that way it'll be ready tomorrow to cut up into tiles and forge out into an actual blade. I already chose 2 sides of the billet to be the inside of the 4-way. The reason I need to know which sides are the inside is because they need to be ground clean with no scale. The other sides, I just knocked the big stuff off, and we don't have to grind 100% on those, just to save some material. I'm gonna go ahead and measure this out and cut it up into 4 equal length pieces. Kind of out of numbers here. Not very often I get a bar that's longer than my yardstick. Okay, 36, 41 inches long. So, 41 divided by 4 will be 10 and a quarter. 10 and 1/4 each. Should be correct. That is a long 4-way billet. 10 and 1/4. 10 and 1/4. 10 and 1/4. And then hopefully we're left with 10 and 1/4. Perfect. I keep track of the number of these pieces so I can make them mirror each other later on. I'm gonna go get my respirator on. We're gonna chop these up. I'm gonna grind the ends clean, etch the ends so we can see the pattern, and continue processing from there.
There's this little spot where the cutoff wheel throws all the sparks and they're really hot, so they stick together and it creates this little pile that builds up kind of like a stalactite or something. And I love when they get so big that they fall off and you have this unique little spark mound creation that the chop saw made.
We're gonna see what the pattern looks like. This is gonna be awesome. I hope. Okay, here we go. I've not looked at the pattern yet with all 4 bars combined together. Whoa.
Holy shit.
That looks awesome.
That's crazy.
That is almost exactly what I drew on my sketch. That is perfect. Oh, I love it. I am very glad I added in those extra 15 and 20 strips. They're gonna really outline and highlight the straight layer mosaics there with the stars. You can see the extra thick 15 and 20 running right through here, those nice lines. That is perfect. It's really gonna outline that shape going on there. Wow. Look at that. I got the billet all cleaned up. I also went ahead and CA glued it together. Next, I'm gonna MIG weld up the ends, and then I'm gonna seal up all the seams on the sides with the welder as well. Oh, it's so bad. Such a big gap. I'm gonna get stuff falling down in there unless I plug it. Yeah, I'm clever. I plug that gap with a big old rod.
Plug that gap with a big old rod.
Otherwise,
yes, sir.
Stuff would have fallen down in the billet.
Plug that gap with a big old rod.
That's right.
In a couple places here as I welded
Plug that
this
gap with a
4-way
big old
billet.
rod.
I had a couple of gaps, and I'm using it to span that gap and weld up.
Span that
everything and
gap.
seal it.
Span that gap.
I'm not concerned about
Plug that back.
the inside of the
Plug
billet,
that gap
because
with a
once
big
we're
old
full
rod.
of
Plug that
billet,
gap with a
all
big
that
old
fluid
rod.
on the inside will close up, and you'll never know that there was a gap fit. But I do want to make sure it gets sealed up well with the welder, just to make sure no oxygen or atmosphere gets inside.
So I went ahead and sealed the billet up with the TIG welder, just because it's a lot cleaner and the little bits of stuff aren't going to fall down into the billet. Sealed it up with that, and then I put some reinforced welds with the MIG welder on over the top of the TIG welds. Had to close up that gap with big old 1/8-inch rod, and now looking
Big
at
ol'
the outside
1/8-inch
of the billet,
rod.
you never
Big
know
ol'
if that's the
1/8-inch
gap there.
rod.
Hopefully that's what the pattern will look like.
Plug that gap with a big ol' 1/8-inch rod.
That's right.
So they were smaller on
Plug
the
that-
outside because the pattern was misaligned when I did that. The only way I could get the pattern to really line up with each other was to have that gap.
What's with the head?
Yeah, big old
What?
fancy thing there, but I think there's
Did you see the head?
The head? What do you mean?
Are you tired of wasting valuable time searching for the
That big old nasty thing. Big old.
What head?
Did you see the head?
Where?
In the right.
Oh, the little styrofoam. Yeah. Little mannequin head.
Now looking at the outside of the billet, you would never tell there's that big gap there. Hopefully,
It's like
that's
burnt.
what the pattern will look like. The reason I didn't close those bars up.
He hit
is because
when he
The burnt
gets
head.
when he gets mad, he hits it with a
the
torch.
pattern was misaligned when I did that. The only way I could get the pattern to really line up with each other was to have that gap on the inside. There's a big old nasty thing there, but I think there's some C8 trying to seep out right there, and it will not weld.
Me when I got a 4-way billet.
wasting
I got a 4-way billet.
I understand. Introducing
Introducing the Mastersmith's Toolkit. It's a downloadable PDF that brings together all the links I use in one convenient place. Imagine having instant access to all the resources I use right at your fingertips. The best part is, the Mastersmith's Toolkit is absolutely free. That's right, sign up today and have instant access to all the tools and materials I use without spending a dime. So click the link in the description and sign up today. The billet we're forge welding together now is set up in a 4-way configuration. So that means that there's 2 pieces next to 2 pieces, so it makes a 2x2 grid. Because of that, I want to forge weld the billet from all 4 sides at the same time. That way all the surfaces on the inside of the billet will get pressure all pushing in towards the center. The 4-way dies are really cool. They're made out of some massive, thick, 2-inch by 1/2-inch thick angle iron. One cool thing about how powerful the press is and the crazy heat from the dies, these giant squaring dies, even though they're a 1/2 inch thick, actually are curved a little bit. They're not flat on the inside anymore. They've curved from the power of the press plus the heat of the billets, smashing into these 4-way dies over and over again. Even though they've curved a little bit on the inside, they still work great in order to square up billets. And when I say square up, I really mean square up the corners. They're not squaring up the edges too much. Those edges will have a little bit of a radius on them. But what they're doing is getting those corners all square to each other. And they work great, of course, for forge welding billets together like this, 4-way billets. See, one of the problems that running the press has is it's really easy to form diamond-shaped things. So the corners get all out of whack and you end up with this kind of diamond-shaped billet. And that's why I have a couple different sizes of the squaring dies, so I can re-square billets, get the corners all aligned and back where they need to be, make it so things aren't diamonds anymore, and that makes it so when I re-stack things, things fit tighter together. Because if you have diamond shapes, they normally don't stack together as well and you get some really wonky things happening. But if the billet is nice and square, then things re-stack and multiply better, more cleanly. And on top of all that, when you keep the billet square, you get a little bit less distortion in your final pattern too. Once the billet's forge welded and drawn out a little bit, I then begin re-squaring the billet. This is just like what we did on the previous operation, only this time I'm going to be re-squaring it on that 45-degree angle. I do not want to do a weird angle for this re-square. This re-square, I want the pattern going across on a nice 45-degree angle, so I try my absolute hardest to re-square the billet on a good 45-degree angle. I forge in 2 corners all the way down the length of the billet. Once those are forged down, I focus on the other 2 corners, reorienting the square of the billet.
This.
Something's kind of twisted here. Can't see, there's too many flames. This billet comes out of whack now, it's Josh's fault. Not mine. Plausible deniability. My legs. Feel my legs, Josh.
Feel my legs, Josh.
Woo!
Feel my legs, Josh.
Josh, come over here and feel my legs. Feel my legs, damn it.
That's as long as I can handle. That is not fun to handle anymore. One more. Okay. Okay, kids. Now we just gotta change the dye and we'll put the other dye in there to straighten things out. Piping hot, don't touch it too long.
Piping hot billet.
Piping hot.
Piping hot billet.
Piping hot billet. That's a piping hot billet right there.
It's hotter than a billet.
It's hotter than a billet in here.
Don't forget to pick up your Griffin shirts. These things are awesome.
Peter Griffin.
The Griffin
Peter
sword I'm
Griffin.
creating right now,
Make sure you pick up your Peter Griffin shirt.
they look killer. The color.
Make sure you
is blood
Make
black,
sure you
and I
get
love them so
your
much.
Peter Griffin
Links in the
shirts.
description. They're 100% cotton, so if you catch yourself
Use
on
my
fire,
code to get
they shouldn't
40%
stick
off
to
your
skin.
Peter
Got
Griffin
the ends
shirt.
chopped off, etching it in some ferrochloride. We're gonna see how this pattern looks. It should.
Homie's
start looking
selling
really
great
cool
shit
right now.
of it. He said if it's 100% cotton and it catches on fire, it probably won't stick to your skin.
Whoa! Oh, that looks awesome! Wow! Oh man, the pattern's doing exactly what I wanted it to do as well. We've got that starry area really starting to curve and get a lot of life to it. I'm so glad I put the 15 and 20 in earlier because that really outlines that area nicely. And all the W's in between look really awesome. Wow. I love it. We still have to 4-way it again, so whatever we see right now is going to be 4-wayed into an even cooler looking thing for the sword blade. I'm going to get all the scale ground off this thing, get it cut into 4 pieces, clean it up, get it CA glued together, and welded together, ready for the forge again. You don't need to see all that, so I will see you tomorrow. Whoa. Woo. It's day 7 working on the Griffin sword. I want to get this billet welded up, get it
Peter Griffin sword.
Peter Griffin sword.
Final 4-way for the billet. I want to get it drawn out into a billet that we can cut up into tiles. I may not be able to work much more beyond that because this billet is going to need to cool down very, very slowly, so that'll take a couple of hours. The reason it'll need to cool down slowly is so it'll soften up a bunch, and I'll be able to cut it up with the bandsaw. If the billet cools too quickly, it'll be kind of hard and it'll destroy the bandsaw blades too fast. I've got this billet CA glued together. Let's take it over to the welder and get the ends welded up and seal up these sides.
You keep forgetting to weld your billet.
I keep forgetting my billet, man.
You keep forgetting to weld your billet.
True.
Always weld your billet before putting it in the forge.
God, I always forget that, man.
Eh?
Hmm?
Eh?
Eh?
I've got some big old nasty gaps on this billet, and that's because I was using the squaring die right up till the very end of forging out this billet. But for the very last pass, for some reason, I went ahead and used the flat regular dies, and that kind of messed up my billet shape. My billet had a big curve in it, so it was kind of pulling to the side, and it kind of made the whole billet be this weird diamond shape. I should have had the last thing this billet touched, besides flattening, be that squaring die, and then it wouldn't have had these big gaps. So these bars aren't quite squares, and that's why we've got some gaps in areas. I'm just going to cover up those gaps, though, with a piece of TIG wire and weld everything shut. And after this billet's forge welded together,
Fill those gaps with TIG wire. Weld everything shut.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I need a key card.
Well, now you don't see any big gaps. Never would have known. I think it's about time
Leave one on
to
the
situation.
Me when I'm at an interview for a job, and that's my answer to the question. Fill in the gaps with some TIG wire, weld everything shut.
That's right.
It's forge time.
Once more, we're back in the forge. Got the billet heating up. I want it to hit
Got the billet heating up.
100 degrees Fahrenheit, and then I want it to
Once more,
soak
we're
for
back
a
in the
couple of
forge. Got the
minutes.
billet
It would
heating
not
up.
be good if I only had the outside of the billet hot enough and the inside was
Might
still
smite
too
mine
cold to
ops
forge well
later.
together. That could
Might
lead to
smite
some
mine
real problems,
ops.
like some unwelded portions or something. I mean, maybe there's a chance you could heat it up later on in the process and get it all to forge welded.
I should
but you
probably
really
go
wanna
to
make it
bed.
forge welded
Yeah.
together now,
I should
all
probably
together.
go to bed.
So I want to make
I
sure
should
that
probably do the
billet
same.
heats
Yeah, I
up for a
work
couple
tomorrow.
minutes and it's heated all the way through. And then I
I
can
work
use the
at
squaring dies to press
si-
in on
I
the
work at
billet
6:30
on all
tomorrow.
4 sides at the same time, so the entire billet gets forge welded all at once.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, wrong one.
I was gonna forge this billet out into the final shape that we need to cut it up into tiles and make the sword blade, but I forgot I do need to cut off
Like, highest out of all the tests,
I got it.
but not by temper of the sword.
I got it.
Definitely but
Wait, did homie?
well from the top to bottom.
Fuck.
Homie hasn't finished the sword yet. He didn't finish the sword by the end of the video.
Good job.
Salt heat treating on the low temperature, and the results were beautiful.
It's right here. What the fuck?
Oh boy. I don't think I portioned my afternoon coffee out correctly. I still have a little over half a cup. I'm supposed to have 0 left by the time I hit, 4:30. But it's okay. I won't let it go to waste. But
Good job, Mr. Griffin. Good job on your heat treating. I can see smoke around the forge.
Forge is working out great.
They were hugging and talking while they were hugging, so their mic was muffled.
Although I can heat up too long of a section to handle.
I will see you in the next video. May the forge be with you. Bye bye.
Alright, good night, gamers.
You know,
Yeah, I should probably go to bed too. Alright. Tomorrow we finish Silphco. We do this area. But right now I'm gonna go to bed because it's late and I want to go to sleep. Good night. Good night.